Hello everybody, welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 11th of October, 2024. My name is Carey Holzman, and a super shout out and thank you to our friend Buster, Peter Laycock, joining us from Scotland with a very generous PayPal contribution, as well as Luke Greenia also gave us a PayPal contribution prior to the show starting. And I was just looking here in the chat, and again, prior to the show starting, €10 in super chat from our friend Nick Caffrey. Nick says, hi, Carey, Marlena, and everyone in the chat. I hope everyone is well and safe. Right on. Thank you, you guys. Thank you so much for your continued support. Our friend Paul Gray there in Australia, Oystein in Norway, and Frankie B in New York are our super members that help keep this show moving forward and enable us to bring you innovative, latest gadgets and content throughout the week. So yesterday, actually, I've been sort of balancing, still doing a lot of work on Studio C. That's going to go on for at least another month. But every day, everything I get done is one less thing I got to do later. Plus, Mara decided she wanted to add a RGB power cable to both the motherboard and the video card. So we ordered those. That needs another separate fan controller. So there's a fan controller for the water block, a fan controller for the case, and a fan controller for the RGB power LEDs. And that signal RGB does seem to be the best way to tie all those different systems in together, since they all can't agree, along with the video card from EVGA. Signal RGB also controls that. So a good tip for that signal RGB. I just don't like that they want my email address. But, you know, easy enough, just use the throwaway email address, and we just get the free ones. And now I've got a ton of cable management ahead of me, but I had to clear the desk off, because today we're reviewing the latest and greatest deal from Minisforum. I can't get over, every time I bring one of these on, I'm like, I can't believe you're getting this much power for this little of money. Maybe I'm just getting old, but there wasn't that long ago when I bought an HP desktop computer, and it was like a Best Buy thing, and it was like $300. And I was warning people not to buy this thing because it was non-upgradable. And I took it apart live I unboxed it, took the panel off of it, and immediately a SATA connector was disconnected. So that wouldn't have worked out of the box. It needed a Torx, I think a T15 screwdriver to open the case, which most customers don't have, although you can make a straight edge screwdriver work. Customer wouldn't know what to look for, wouldn't know where that cable goes, probably wouldn't even notice it. So it was basically, and we can go back and we can show you the video, but it was a little motherboard about yay big. Everything was built on the motherboard. Nothing was upgradable. The power supply was an external brick like what a laptop has. It had no internal power supply, even though it was a mid-sized tower computer. No case window, no RGB, just the basic of the basic, completely disposable. The problem is when you set it aside next to a real computer of the similar size, say you're looking down the aisle at Best Buy or an electronics store that sells computers, Walmart, Target, whatever, it looks just like their competitors and even other models that HP makes. You would not know unless you turned it around and looked at the back of it that there was no rear case fan. You wouldn't know unless you opened it up that everything was built on the motherboard and nothing was repairable or upgradable. I guess maybe you could change the hard drive, which of course was mechanical. And it was just a piece of junk. Now, for $20 more, I think, than that case, that whole disposable piece of junk cost, and I bought it as a warning to you guys to be aware of what you're buying, because on the outside it looked just like all the other computers. It was in the inside that it was different, and it was on its price that it was like $100 cheaper. People buying that thinking they're saving $100. No, you're not. Nope. You're getting $100 less worth of equipment that's disposable, non-repairable, non-upgradable. I guess as long as it breaks in warranty, you're fine. But the minute you're out of warranty, that's when you're going to find out you just bought a disposable computer. It's very deceitful. And it wasn't a good computer to begin with. It was as cheap of a mid-sized tower that you could buy anywhere on the shelf. And I bought it again, not so I can use it. In fact, I ended up giving it away to somebody. But the point, it was to make you aware, to have some expectation. Do a little research before you invest your money. Now, for about $20 more than that, you could get something in a very similar way. It's not very repairable, but certainly more upgradable. We can change the NVMe drive storage out. We can add more RAM. We can go to 96 gigs of RAM on this thing. What is it? You have your budget line computers, right? Those are your N100, Celeron, very basic stuff. And if that's all you need to surf in the web, you know, they're fine. Then you have your mid-range, which is where this falls in. And the mid-range encompasses the majority of computers sold in the world. Then you have your high-end and enthusiast, and those represent, again, a smaller percentage of high-end machines. Why people, let me rephrase this, how people use them and justify them, probably only about 15 or 20% of the people that buy the high-end and enthusiast computers actually use them. And about 80%, at least in the consumer space, maybe even in the business environment, but in the consumer space for sure, 80% I would approximate are buying the high-end enthusiast computers because they can, and it's like an emotional high. They're not actually demanding that much out of the computer and don't really use that much power. Maybe sometimes they're gaming, but again, you know, it doesn't improve their game skill at all. So with that in mind, let me show you what we're working on today. And we're going to look at Minisforum's website, and we're going to point out Minisforum's new support site too. So in case you want to reinstall or do anything like that, I'll show you how to get to that. Also, with Windows 24H2 that just came out, we know these are going to be missing that update because these are brand new. I can tell you, I took this out of the box last week before Windows 11 24H2, and I went through the out-of-box experience, downloaded the updates. It did not require me to do the bypass NRO. It was already set up that way for Minisforum. Other than that, spot on. And then I just closed it right back up in the box, thinking I'd get ahead of the updates. But now we just had updates this last Tuesday. And then the Tuesday before that, they released Windows 11 24H2, which also had an update afterwards. That's a lot of updates. And you can imagine if you're me and you have 20 computers laying around here, I'm not updating 20 computers. It's not happening. I'll get to them when I get to them. It takes way too much time to put everything up on the desk, hook it all up, turn it on. These aren't toasters. These aren't appliances. You don't just put it in a closet, take it out after 6 months, plug it in, and start using it. If you do, you're likely going to become a victim of identity theft, ransomware, fraud, some form of victimization. You're going to be a victim of an attack. So these updates are there for your safety. That's why they're free. So people tend to devalue what's free. In my opinion, Microsoft should charge for these updates, and then maybe people will respect the value of them more. But just take responsibility for your actions. If you choose not to do them or to postpone them, you know, what the consequences are yours and yours alone. But at least you can't claim you didn't know. I told you. And a quick hello to everybody joining us in the chat. Let's see who's in there today. Who do we have? Michael Sayers says hello. Fast Alpha and Tony's RC. Winston Liu and Arnold Schmidt. Trevor Schweitzer. Dustin Fuller and Mark Baggett all say hello. Of course, Marlene is in there as always. She's our administrator here at the channel, and she takes care of answering your emails or bringing them to my attention if necessary, as well as working with potential sponsors or companies that, you know, all the time companies send us requests to review product. And a lot of it's like iPhone specific. It's a waste of my time. Anyway, so Mara goes through that and works with those companies, and stuff coming in every single day. There's no rest for the weary. And it's taken all that burden off my shoulders so I can focus on what I need to do here in front of the camera. And so with your support, we got a well-oiled machine here that should be good moving forward as long as things continue and hopefully even get better. Frankie B joins us, says hello. There's Eddie Casanova, Dean Sermersheim, and Luke Greenia. Roger Nyard says hello. David Graham says hello. Luke is in Vermont. He says it's 55 degrees Fahrenheit in Vermont. Every time I see Vermont on a YouTube video, I want to go there. I think they just filmed, where was the external shots filmed? Something we were looking at or watching, and all the external shots were filmed in Vermont. It'll come to me. But anyway, the footage is everything I see that looks beautiful. Got to take a road trip. Here in Phoenix, we're still at 100+ degrees Fahrenheit here in October, almost the middle of October. But Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, and moving forward, should be in the 90s. Hopefully, we'll be done. We won't revisit these 3-digit temperatures. I'm so done with it. LJ says hello. There's 3D Everything, Scott, John Paul Bacon, Phil Stodd. Thank you, Phil. We did receive your PayPal contribution the other day. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. David Graham, I mentioned, says hello. He says, I'm ready for the world tear to which one you are in on. I don't know what that says. Sometimes I should maybe read these to myself before reading them out loud. Proofread, people. Read back what you write before you hit the enter button, aren't you? Dan Nilsson says hello. And again, hello to our friend Nick Caffrey. John Svensson, Richard Palmentier, Patrick Manny, Claudio Ventura, Craig Dowler. Mark Gaines renews membership. Mark is on month 29 of consecutive membership. Thank you so much, Mark. Hello, Carey, Mara, and everyone in the chat. Hi, Mark. Cheers, friend. Speaking of Marks, there's a Mark Baggett joining us. Ray Gallagher, Patrick T, and Jonathan, Terry, Jacob, Doman 2000, Douglas Burchell, Nick J, Jose Lopez, Abdul Azim Patel, a longtime friend of the channel. Good to see you, Abdul. 3D Everything renews membership, now a member for 29 months. He says another month went by. Can you believe it? Thank you for your continued support, 3D Everything. All those people with gold badges next to their names, they're all supporters of the channel. And without them, we'd have to go to some manufacturer and, say, hey, can we represent your company and speak on behalf of your company? And you can tell us what to say so we can bring in the money so we can pay for the rent and do this. And I don't want to go down that road. So you guys, with your support, enable us to do whatever we want to do without any corporate influence or consequences. So there you go. Those members are very important here. Without them, you would not have this content to watch. You would have something to watch, but it wouldn't be this. Let's see. Diesel Doctor says hello. Patrick Manny renews membership, also a member for 29 months. He says, I'm glad to support the best computer channel on YouTube's. Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate you very much. It's the community. Honestly, that's the secret sauce. Anybody can make a channel, but not anybody can have this community. And we hope that if you're watching and you've not been a part of our community, please pop into our chat room during the live video. Say hello. Anybody who's kind, you're always welcome, and we want more kind people. This community has plenty of room for more. And if you want to be rude or critical, you can keep that to yourself or go somewhere else. This is a very supportive community. Test it. Come on in and say hello. That's all you have to do. And you'll get the same as you give. If you're a jerk, you're going to get jerkiness back. And if you're kind, you're going to get kindness back. So we hope you choose kindness. W. Denton says hello. Martin Erickson says, I can buy T15 screwdrivers in all the hardware stores around here. I think the patent expired. I always pick up from Amazon. That's my place. And I have links to all my tools in the Amazon store, which is a link in my video notes below the video. Scott, Ray Gallagher, all saying hello, verifying the sound is loud and clear. Thanks, guys. Randy Rablowski says hello. Phil Stodd said, I call it the more dollars than cents syndrome. Oh, yeah, when people buy the enthusiast level. But I mean, we should be thanking them because the profit margin on those types of machines are very, very high. And manufacturers are just scraping by on profit margin on just the regular stuff. In fact, just adding the Leon Lee Strymer Plus for the video card and for the motherboard for the that Cougar build that we're doing, $50 a piece. So over $100 for 2 RGB cables, although I guess you're paying for the controller as well. But that's probably a $10 part. That's a massive profit margin in this industry. And that's helped closing the gap with the lower profit margin on what the bulk of people purchase. So while I might roll my eyes at it, thankfully those people are buying this stuff, because otherwise the prices would be higher for all of us buying the stuff we actually need. So, you know, pros and cons. Johnny Johnson and FM Lazar say hello. Michael Lavelle joins us. Edgar Sands joins us. Mick Woods with a 5-pound contribution said, Carey, it's getting cold here in London. Hey, warm up in a chippy. You know what I'm saying? Like, just go outside, go down to your local chippy. Should be nice and warm inside there. Get yourself some fish and chips and bits. I'm already getting hungry. That's on my bucket list. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've just seen it on YouTube, and now I must have it. Shamim Kashviras joins us, as well as Arnold Albert and Anthony Pete. Jack Kugelmis says hello. Mr. Rick saying hello. Jose Lopez with a $1 contribution. Thank you, Jose. It all adds up. We appreciate all contributions of any kind, and your contribution of joining us here in the chat and talking to us. This is an interactive video. This is not like other YouTube channels on tech. We actually talk to you. We acknowledge your existence, and we do our best to answer your reasonable questions. So there are other channels that do this, but good luck finding them. One that comes to mind is Doug Betts, Live Windows Training with Doug Betts. He's very interactive with his audience, doing tech talk. And some people acknowledge the chat room once in a while, but we try to include you in the video process as much as we can throughout, from beginning to end. And that's why sometimes these videos may turn left, go off on a little tangent, because it's of interest to somebody watching. And if I feel like, you know what, that's something that we should address, we'll stop now and address that and then come back. So that's invited, always invited, as long as it's a reasonable question, nothing personal or nothing that would be, there's a word. Inappropriate. I don't know why I'd have a hard time finding that word. You'd think I'd know it really well. Anyway, our friends over at Minisforum sent us the Elite Mini. No, did they send us? Or did we buy it? I'm getting so confused now, I can't remember. The 790. Let me try this one more time. Take two. Minisforum UM760 Slim. Now, we've already reviewed the 760, right, which is a full-size, not full-size. It's a taller square box for a mini PC. This is half that height, but this has USB 4 on it. In fact, let me take you over to the Minisforum website, and let's take a look at the specifications and how they're promoting it. The link to this is in the video notes. Well, the link to Amazon is in the video notes. We should probably add this link as well. Let me share my screen with you. So if I turn this button on and turn on this button right here, then you should be able to see my screen. There it is. Okay, UM760 Slim. Look at the price, $319. Now you think, compared to that old, it's old now, but it was brand new, that HP that I reviewed, how big it was and how empty it was on the inside, just wasted space, deceiving you into thinking you were getting a normal computer when you were really kind of getting a little mini ITX put into a mid-tower case. And what made it worse is the mini ITX was basically like a laptop motherboard, in the sense that the CPU was soldered in, the RAM I think had one socket, and you used a laptop power supply that was external. There was no fan on the back of the case. So what are you getting for $319? Well, let's go over it. This is an AMD Ryzen 5 7640HS with 16 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. As we scroll down, if I can get my mouse to work, we can see how they're promoting it here with regards to the processor. Supports 3 displays at the same time with an HDMI port, a display port, and a USB 4 port. This is your exploded view of how it's all assembled. And you scroll down a little further. They've made it smaller. They put in higher frequency RAM, that's DDR5 dual channel, supporting up to 2 sticks of 48 gigs each for a total of 96. If you really wanted to go there, Your boot up time might take a while, having your BIOS have to check all 96 gigs of RAM every single time. And then we've got 6 cores, 12 threads, 16 megs of cache on the processor with this AMD's Zen 4 architecture. You've got Cinebench scores listed here. And let's see. Scroll down a little bit more. A little bit more about the RAM. That's just standard SODIMM laptop memory. It will support, it says up to 4 terabytes, but there's really no such thing as a limit on storage. With regards to NVMe, the problem is whether or not the SSD will fit and whether or not it might run too hot in that little enclosure. But as far as capacity goes, technically speaking, there's no such thing as a limit on NVMe. Talks a bit about their cooling system here. They say it's whisper quiet and give you some examples. They say the noise levels remain below 35 decibels, and by comparison, a quiet library would be at 35 decibels. An office space would be at 50, and a busy street would be at 70. So give you some reference point of how loud or how quiet that is, depending on how sensitive you are. The network included is it says it's a 5 gig wired network port. Ooh. It supports link aggregation with a maximum transmission speed of 10 gigs. What does that mean? There's 2 5 gig network ports on this? And it's got Wi-Fi 6E built in. Of course, that includes your Bluetooth as well. With USB 4, you're looking at 40 gigabits per second. Don't worry, there's going to be a USB 4 version 2.0. I know, this is all getting very confusing. USB 420, I don't know what to think of. USB 4 version 2.0 will support 80 gigs per second. It's not in the marketplace yet, but the standard has been ratified and it's coming. So USB 420. Anyway, that's not what this has. That's not available to anybody as of October 2024. However, this is USB 4, which is the latest and greatest, 40 gigs per second. That's really fast. That's essentially when you hook up an external drive that was USB 4, you should be able to get about 3,800 megabytes per second transfer rate via USB 4 and an external NVMe drive if it supports USB 4, which is the same speed or better than a high-performance Gen 3 internal NVMe drive, which probably just the drive alone, a 1 terabyte Gen 3 NVMe drive is probably going to set you back 60, probably close to $100 for a high-performance one. Anyway, this whole package is $319. And with that, you're getting the case, you're getting the power supply, you're getting the Ethernet port, you're getting triple display output, you're getting memory, 16 gigs of DDR5, you're getting a terabyte of storage. Not the fast storage, but a terabyte of storage. It's not slow either. It's right down the middle. You're getting Windows 11, all of that built into that price. So the ports on it, you got your power button, you've got 2 USB Type-A 3.2s, you've got an audio jack and a clear CMOS recess button. You need a paper clip or something to stick in there to reset your BIOS if you're messing around with it, which I don't recommend you do. On the back side is your barrel connector for 19 volts. There's your single, now this says 2.5 gig LAN. And then HDMI USB 4. So you've got one USB 4 here. I was thinking this had 2, but you've got one USB 4. You've got a display port, and you've got 2 USB 2.0s. That's good for a keyboard or mouse or printer or something like that. Now, this 2.5 gig LAN kind of throws me off because up here, where was it? Oh, and the storage it supports Gen 4 up to 7,000 megabytes per second. So that's pretty darn fast. Where did I see the... Somewhere in here, it said it had a 5 gig port, which threw me. And then it said it supports link aggregation which means you would take 2 ports and connect them, aggregate them together. But I think that is a typo. The UM760 features a 5 gig wired network port with aggregation. Well, it doesn't say ports, it says port. How would you aggregate 1 port? That doesn't make any sense, because it's implying, by saying link aggregation, that you would take 1 5 gig port, connect it to another 5 gig port in the software so that it acts like one. Think of it like a RAID of your network. It's not exactly what it is, but you know, you can take multiple hard drives and trick your computer into thinking it's one big one, like on a network attached storage. Also, network attached storage often has 2 network ports that support link aggregation. So this says it's a 5 gig wired networking card, but down here it says it's 2.5. I gotta believe it's 2.5 and that somebody made a mistake. There's obviously no link aggregation because that would require 2 ports. See here, it says 2.5. So we'll point out the mistake to our contact at Minisforum. We'll let them know so that they can correct that. This is actually what you're getting. Let's see. Comes pre-installed Windows 11 and Copilot. Yeah. Scroll down. Yeah, it's small, it's powerful, we get it. And in the package, you're going to get the computer, the AC adapter, and power cable. You're going to get the bracket for mounting it behind a monitor or under a desk or wherever you want to, if you wanted to mount it or hang it. There is an adapter, scroll down, what are they calling this? There's an HDMI cable that comes included in a user's manual. So that's what you get, all of that for $319 right now. And these are your specifications. Again, the processor, the RAM, the storage, the NVMe storage, the Wi-Fi, the video output, the audio output. These are all of your input outputs, your RJ45 for your network, USB 3.2, 2.0, USB 4, HDMI display port, audio jack, and your clear CMOS button. These are the dimensions and the weight, the voltage, and the operating system. And looking over at Amazon, which we have a link for, we can see this unit sells $319 at Amazon, free returns for 30 days if you're buying it from Amazon. So you can try it. If you don't like it, send it back. And then finally, if you're looking for support, you would go to minisforum.com/new/support. This is the new location for any support for any Minisforum PCs that you own. I think they could do a better job making this clear. So it says, what do you need help with? After sale, okay, so Billy is like a Chinese YouTube. Let's see, where's our downloads? Oh, there's a tab right here. It says downloads. So if you wanted to reinstall the operating system, you've got a big package of all the drivers. That's 1.1 gig, and you can download all your drivers. You can look for BIOS and firmware, although it's pretty uncommon for these mini PCs because they're not as customizable. So there's not so much that can go wrong. They're sort of already tuned for you at the factory. If you want that kind of level to be able to tune it yourself, probably want to build your own system. Don't buy anything pre-built if you're looking to tune. It is already tuned for cooling, efficiency, and power by very well-educated engineers doing a lot of research and development in order to avoid upset customers and unnecessary support calls. So I would leave it alone unless you like that sort of thing. And then we've got the manual right here that you can download, pretty small. But there you go, that's all your downloads and that's your support area. Let me head back over here to camera 1. There I am. Okay. I cannot fully see the chat. Let me see if I can slide this over a little bit. Maybe like that. Okay. John Struther says, am I in the chat? You are in the chat. Welcome in, John. John Struther says, was my comment removed? I wasn't watching. Maybe something, oh, I see. Marlena didn't remove anything from you. I don't know. Try it again. Ron Hillier, that's a friend I know in real life. for a long time. He joins us in the chat, says hello. I think I met Ron in 1984. I bet he has some stories he could tell you about me that he won't. I love seeing folks saying hello to everybody. Mick Wood says fish and chips tomorrow night. Why would you do that to me, Mick? What'd I ever do to you? Robert Zimmerman joins us and says hello. Richard said he's overall very impressed with these mini computers. Robert M says hello. Richard Palmentier said I should invest in Amazon as much as I purchase from them. You and me both. And Gatorade in my case too, right? Paul Connolly says hello from down under. Welcome in, Paul. FM Lazar said I made fish and sweet potatoes last Monday. Yeah, the problem with making it is it stinks up the whole house. But anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about here. So one of the issues that I'm struggling with is manufacturers these days, they're pretty straightforward with what you're going to get, what's your performance, how upgradable is it. It doesn't matter if we're talking about a router, what kind of range can you get out of it, out of a wireless router. Well, the manufacturer already tells you on the box, in a best case scenario, you won't do any better than this. They'll say, you know, maximum range possible. But is that the range you're going to get in your environment? Oh, you have to test it. So when reviewers test routers and they test mini PCs or computers, it's not going to be any better than the manufacturer already told you it is. The new model is almost always faster than the old model. Hey, we're going to review last year's Dell XPS. Now we're going to review this year's Dell XPS. What do you know? It's faster. Mind blown. So I'm struggling to make a review that can provide you with information that already hasn't been provided. So I think in some cases people want to watch the reviews just to get, you know, what's the content creator's reaction going to be? Or if you're familiar with the content creator and you get an idea of, you know, how big or how small they are, you might get an idea, reference to the actual size of the mini PC. Apart from performance and, you know, as far as gaming goes, you can do some gaming on this. It's not what it's built for. But depending on the kind of games you play, they might play fine. They might play like crap. There's 100,000 games out there. What am I supposed to do? Test 4 of them and hope one of those 4 is one of the 100,000 you might play under the settings, resolution, size screen, or multiple screens that you play under? It's a ridiculous concept. So sometimes you just have to have the experience. If it tweaks your interest, piques your interest, make the purchase and try it. Your standards and what you require or demand or need are uniquely yours. As far as the quality goes, you're not getting ripped off. You're not getting subpar parts. Minisforum is a well-known, well-established leader in mini PCs, and they have so many to choose from now. You know, if you want something for gaming, expect to pay 2 to 3 times, 4 times the price. Gaming is an expensive luxury, but depending on the gaming, you know, AAA titles, those things are pretty demanding, and they're also expensive games to buy. So with that, we've got some documentation here on top. As I mentioned, I've already taken this out of the box, so all the plastic's been removed. But here's what we've got. You'll see it's not as tall as the 760. That also means you cannot put storage in here, but that's a good thing. I discourage anybody from putting a 2.5 inch drive. Even if it could, you're just adding more and more heat to the inside of the machine, which is bad. Keep your storage externally as much as possible. And whatever you store internally, back it up on a regular basis. To get into this, there's 4 rubber feet that have to be removed, and then you take the screws out, and then everything's available for your RAM, your storage. There's little heat sinks on it you want to take off and move over if you're going to replace those parts. Okay, the rest of what's in here, we have a cardboard box. It's a weird cardboard box. There's our VESA mounting bracket if you want to mount this computer. This is our HDMI cable. Again, it's a shorter HDMI cable so that if you mount this behind your monitor, right, which good luck accessing your USB ports, but if you mount this behind your monitor, no one would see that cable. Otherwise, this cable's pretty short. So unless you're going a real short distance, probably aren't going to use it. Also included is our power adapter. Again, this was in a little plastic bag that I've already removed. And we're going to go ahead and plug the power in. And I need my keyboard and my mouse. So we'll go ahead and we'll use the USB 2.0 ports. It's not like plugging it into a USB 3 is going to make me type any faster. But that's what people think about video cards in gaming. And some people. Let me turn these on. I need HDMI and Ethernet, which I am standing on. So here's my Ethernet cable. This should connect us at 2.5. And HDMI cable, which I'm also standing on and probably tripping over. I went from standing on it to 1 foot to the other. Okay, got a lot of spare cable. We will plug HDMI in here. Right there. And then I just need to give the, look how small this 120 watt power brick is. Look how little it is. I appreciate that. I also appreciate that it doesn't plug directly in the wall and block all the other plugs. You know, the neighboring plugs. This is a good design. What did I do with my, oh, here it is. I always keep a spare one of these cloverleaf style power connectors that is very common with these adapters, although it's a short cable. Let me just let it hang off the desk. Let's go ahead and turn this on. Oh, last two things on the box. There's their USA style power cable and a couple extra spare rubber feet, which to me is not a good solution. Like, in other words, if you've got to take those rubber feet off to get to the screws, and then you can't get the rubber foot to stick again because the sticky stuff wore out, dried out, whatever, got torn when you removed it. They're like, here's a couple extra feet. Okay, but what happens when you run out? Then what? Just put a hole in the center of the foot or move the rubber feet over. The screws should be exposed. They're on the bottom. Nobody's going to see them. I'm really, really harping on Minisforum and anybody else who does this. It's like, hey, the system's really user serviceable and easy to upgrade. And then they make it more difficult to upgrade than it needs to be. Anyway, just be aware of that. It's a very common practice, especially for Minisforum. They like their little rubber feet. Hey, keep the rubber feet. Just move them over about ½ an inch sideways or down. Put them closer to the center. Or put a hole in the center of the rubber, wherever the screw is. Put a hole in the rubber foot so that it never has to be removed. It's not rocket science. Anyway, let's go ahead and turn this on. So you've got a blue light that comes on, and let's go over to our HDMI input on our capture card. Let's see it boot up. FM Lazar says, with a monitor that supplies 45 watt power, you may be able to get power from one cable. That will not work. This unit needs more than 45 watts, unfortunately. So that would be great if it worked, but that on this unit, it's too power hungry for that. Just FYI. I already thought of that. All right, let me go full screen over here so I can see it the way you guys do. All right, let's see. If we go to our network, are we connected at 2.5? First of all, let's put it on a private network. Yes, we're at 2500 up and down, so it is a 2.5. It's not a 5 gig. There's no link aggregation. It's a Realtek 2.5 gig family controller, in case you're wondering. And then if we look in the device manager, right-click on the start menu, we'll go to device manager. In here, we can see the network, the Wi-Fi network adapter is made by MediaTek. It's a Wi-Fi 6E. It is replaceable. And some people care about this because they want to put Linux on it and they want to make sure that there's Linux drivers for the networking hardware. Of course, you could always disable this if you couldn't find a driver for it and plug a USB Wi-Fi adapter in instead. So I've got this wallpaper that's changing in the background. Ironically, or coincidentally, we get a squirrel. How appropriate. That's coming from a Windows update, I guess. Speaking of which, there's probably some Windows updates waiting for us. I don't have a Microsoft account signed in here, but since it was last updated, I bet you there's just in the 2 weeks that I've been sitting on this, just in 2 weeks, we've had a lot of updates come out. So we'll let that update. And, you know, I don't like this little icon down here, this cartoony thing. So to get rid of that, I just type in the word search, S-E-A-R-H, and then permissions, P-E-R. I got to type search correctly, don't I? S-E-A-R-C-H. The keyboard is off to my side here, so I'm not typing very well today. But the suggestion comes up. I typed in search perm, and it goes, oh, you mean permissions and history? Yes. Scroll to the bottom where it says more settings. Turn that off, and it gets rid of that cartoon. And yeah, we've got some updates coming in. Right now, I believe we're 23H2, but let me just double check with the system. Where did system go? Right here. Yeah, we're still on 23H2. It is Windows 11 Pro. That's the other thing. Minisforum will say it comes with Windows 11, but they don't specify Home or Pro. So that's information a reviewer could provide, along with some clarity to the website with regards to that 5 gig networking stuff. I will let them know that they should be telling people this has Windows 11 Pro specifically, and they need to correct the website. So that'll be my feedback to them, and they're usually quite appreciative about receiving that feedback. Now, while that's installing, what else can I show you? Let me bring this down. Let me check my power settings. I want to make sure this thing does not go to sleep on us while we're working on it. Oh, I guess I already set that to 3 hours on the display and never go to sleep. We're not saving any batteries here. You know, it's not a laptop or a tablet, so there's no sense in using sleep mode on a computer that's plugged in. So we'll let that install. With regards to the hardware, we can use CPU-Z and we can use Crystal Disk Mark. Let me grab my USB Utilities flash drive. While this is installing the Windows Update, we might as well run our system standard stuff here, which would include Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer. So we'll multitask. Go over here to our flash drive, and we're going to grab CPU-Z and Crystal Disk Mark Portable. We'll do Crystal Disk Info. We'll see. It's probably a Kingston. And then we'll look at, we want VLC on here. And we want Uncle Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer on there. Now, I'm not going to run any of that until this is done, but at least it's prepped, it's ready to go. I hate that all of these icons are hidden. I right-click on the taskbar, I go to taskbar settings, I turn all this off, 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 off. Then I come down here where it says other system tray icons, and I click on that. And again, everything on I want off. Turn that off, and then I want this on. I want to see this. I want to see this. I want to see this, and this, and this. I don't want these icons down here hidden from me. That really upsets me. Because otherwise I can't tell what's the status of my antivirus. It's got an exclamation point. It's needing my attention, but it's hidden. We're going to dismiss this because I'm not worried about setting up OneDrive. Dismiss this. I'm not signing in with a Microsoft account. I'm going to turn this on. This is interesting. Device security, and you go to settings. Memory integrity is off. Oh, it is off. Let's turn that on. That requires a restart to take effect, but we don't have to do that right now. Now I've closed that, but Windows Update is still running in the background, so we'll go back over here to Windows Update just so we can keep an eye on its progress. I'm going to dismiss this for now. Let that keep running. While we're waiting, I can also get rid of some items in the Start menu I don't want. Some people falsely call this Windows bloat, but it's not bloat. It's unnecessary, potentially unwanted software trials, and they're very, very small links. Once I click on install, boom, it's gone. So bloat would be something where you're clicking it like Norton 360 and you have to wait for it to go through the whole process. These are just links. They just pop right out. Right click, uninstall. It's 2 seconds. And there's only about 6 or 7 of them depending on if you're in the United States or where you are in the country. That's it, they're gone. I'll also go into the app section and move some unwanted apps. There's maybe 4 or 5 I don't want. It's really not a big deal. The worst of them would be remote desktop connection. I think it's dangerous to have that installed. And that does require a reboot after uninstalling it. But it's there. I would install it if I wanted. I don't think it should be installed by default. But it is Windows 11 Pro. It is intended for professionals. And a lot of home users are finding out the hard way that having a Pro version can actually be a degradation in the pain in the butt it is to maintain and tune Windows because of the security settings and default standards. Just as there's a Windows 11 workstation, try and network that one at home. Good luck. You can do it, but it's not like other versions of Windows 11. All right, so that's installing. Let me go back over here quickly, if I can. Let's go back over to camera 1. So we're done with the USB utilities flash drive. I'm going to take that out, set it aside. And while we're waiting, let me just take a look here in the chat and see what you guys are saying. Florin Gruya joins us. Welcome in. Judesh Gavandar says hello. Classic Computer says hello. Greg 2711 says hello from Georgia. Welcome in, Greg. Welcome in, Classic Computers. Rip City Raider says hello. Welcome in, Rip City Raider. Hey, let's see, how am I doing on my install? Let me check on that. Still installing. You know, this thing is absolutely whisper quiet. I can hear the ocean when I put it to my ear. It's very quiet. You definitely know it's on. There's a slightly tiny little sound of hum of a little fan running, which I find reassuring that I know that it's on. It's not loud. I didn't even really notice it until I started listening for it. Now that I've started listening for it, I can hear it in the background. But before I wasn't even paying attention, didn't even notice it. That's a good thing. Florence says, how's the doggos? Well, Jimmy's doing great. Maybe I will do a broadcast from Studio A here next week. I don't know yet. It's a lot of work to set that back up, but I might because it's good to see Jimmy. He's a good dog. But thank you for asking. Yeah. All right. Let's see how we doing over here. One more time. Should be about ready. So anytime you see one of these cumulative updates, you know it's going to be a while. And I don't care how fast of a computer you've got. Now, a lot of times you just let these go and they'll install automatically. In fact, I like to come down to advanced options here and make sure that receive updates for other Microsoft products is turned on. Get me up to date is turned on, and notify me when a restart is required. Turn that on. Then I'll look down here for any optional updates as well. Those are usually where your drivers are hidden. Here we've got an AMD display driver. Let's go ahead and grab that. If we didn't check that, we wouldn't have gotten it. The other thing is, if you're running an AMD system, you're going to be running the AMD Adrenalin software. So that's going to be right here in the system tray, or you might look for it in your start menu. If you don't have it, or you do have it, either way, you just download the latest version. This is the default welcome to the new AMD software Adrenalin experience, even though I bet this isn't new anymore. I bet there's a newer. We could just hit skip this for now, right here. And then you see we've got 24.2.1, and it says we're up to date. But if we hit check for updates right now, and it's checking it, it's 24.9.1. See? So we'll go ahead and download that. Even though we're installing Windows updates, this is okay to do. I don't know that I want to install it while another install is happening. You might be able to, you might not. I think patience, play it safe. In the case of installs, I don't like to multitask installs. If an install fails or causes a problem, how do I know which one caused it? So by doing one at a time, like for example, when we finish our Windows update, it's going to want to restart. And when we restart, we can come back into the AMD Adrenalin. We've already downloaded it. That download will sit and wait. Then we'll install our AMD Adrenalin. I might be able to do it right now. I prefer not to for those reasons. So we'll go ahead and close this for now. We'll revisit this after our reboot once our install is completed here. Again, that's just the way I do it. You can do it any way you want. Everything should go smoothly either way. The problem is in the rare occurrence where something negative happens as a result, you will not know which one caused it, and that makes the diagnosis just a little bit more difficult to try and undo and figure it out. Randy Rabalski says, I just bought Uncle Carey's Windows Optimizer. I can make my Morphine bought for me a true Carey Holzman computer. Yes, I upgraded to Windows 11 24H2. Right on, right on. That's awesome. Thank you for supporting the channel. The Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer works on Windows 11. If we are made aware of any other tweaks to Windows 11 24H2, we'll add it to the Optimizer and you'll get that as a free update. With regards to the networking problem, Nick over at D7X Tech said he's sure he could write something for solving that issue, Windows 11 24H2 Pro using a network attached storage device, so you don't have to do it by hand. It's going to take a couple weeks, though. He's on a couple other projects. So when he finishes those, he'll look into this for us, and we'll have an update for that. Because that's the way Windows 11 is going to be moving forward, if you're going to use the Pro version. If you use the Home version, you won't have this problem. It's only on the Pro version that changes the security settings, and then you can't access your NAS anymore, which is why I made the video on Tuesday. Anyway, we'll find out more about Windows 11 24H2 as we continue to use it. And that way, if a customer calls me and says, hey, I can't access my server, I know exactly what to do to fix it, and so will you because you're watching the channel. Just would be great to have a little utility that does it for me. So hopefully D7X Tech will either update our networking tool or design a new tool. We'll find out. John Svensson said there are commercials coming in during the live feed. Yeah, unfortunately, we had to turn that feature on because YouTube's payment is so little. The only way we make money from viewers that are watching for free is through the ads. And the ads are paying us 90% less. So we have to run 9 times more ads because people are skipping them, they're not buying the products, the ads are worth less. We're not running necessarily 9 times more ads. If you have YouTube Premium, you won't watch the ads at all. And that also supports us by YouTube Premium. So that's the direction it's going. In order to prevent the channel from becoming a paid platform, which is the direction everything's moving, unfortunately. The advertisers on YouTube are going away. They're not getting people to buy their products. Everybody's putting in ad blockers. YouTube's trying to fight the ad bloggers. The companies don't want to spend the money on the commercials that just aren't effective and they're not converting to sales. So the creators have to find another way to get paid. And that's why I turn memberships on, and that's why you're seeing more ads. It's in order for us to maintain a channel. Without the revenue coming in, there's nothing for you to watch here. There wouldn't be a channel. There wouldn't be anything for you to complain about watching commercials because this wouldn't exist. So you got to take the good with the bad, and some YouTube channels, many YouTube channels this year have shut down, just unable to make ends meet. And we're certainly not doing that. And with the help of our members and our Super Chat contributions, and those ads, hopefully we can continue to survive until things turn around and get better. I'm hoping they're going to get better next year. But if they get worse, I don't know what else to do. If you have suggestions in that regard, how we can pay the rent and make videos nearly daily, You know, a lot of people have just not been able to pay their bills, so they have to go back to a full-time job. And when they do that, there's no time left or energy to make any videos. The incentive kind of goes away. Some people think people should just make videos for their passion, and that's fine if you have the luxury of the money and the time to do that, to give it away. That's certainly how this channel started, but we only made 2 videos a year back in 2008. Now we're making videos darn near daily. So what was I'll do this for fun, became sort of a resource for us to depend on. So for a while, the ads were working great. We were getting bigger with our finances through the advertising. And then the advertisers decided, you know, they're not getting enough people engaging and there's too many ad blockers and they don't want to advertise on YouTube anymore. And if they do, they're not going to pay much for it. What are you going to do? That's the business of doing full-time content creation. You know, at the end of the month, you still got to pay your electric bill, you got to pay your mortgage, you got to pay your insurance, you got to buy food, all that stuff. So if anybody's full-time on YouTube, they need to find a way to generate revenue. And I don't want to become a corporate sponsor puppet. I don't want somebody, some big corporation that I am beholden to tell me what I'm allowed to say and not say. But at least that pays the bills. In fact, I could probably make pretty good money if I did that. I'd probably do much better. Anyway, it is what it is. Charlie Purdy with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Charlie Purdy. Sorry, I mispronounced that. Charlie Purdy. Nick Capri says, I haven't seen any ads in Ireland yet. How come I don't have YouTube Premium? There may be some European laws that YouTube has to follow. I don't know all the different laws in all the different countries. John Streller said he's upgraded to 24H2 Windows 11 on 3 mini PCs and 1 desktop, and they're all working fine. Yeah, so the stories you're hearing about the problems with Windows 11 where people crash blue screen, don't install it, this represents a very tiny percentage of Windows 10 users. They're just very vocal. They had a bad experience. Richard reached out through email to ask for help. His Windows 11, he was trying to go from Windows 10 to 24H2, kept crashing. And so I sent him an email and I suggested he try some different things. And he had a good Acronis image backup. And I said, look, since you have an image backup, I think something's wrong in your Windows 10 install. Could be a driver, I don't know. Let's just wipe it and do a nice clean Windows 11 install the way you see me do it on video. And he did, and everything's perfect. So yeah, he'll have to reinstall some programs and some drivers, but at least he's got a nice stable foundation. If Windows 11 is not installing correctly, 24H2, on your machine, something's different about your machine than the vast majority of other people. Whether that's a piece of hardware that you have that isn't supported, or whether you've tweaked your registry or settings in Windows or added some Windows optimization software that screwed up your Windows installation, giving you the impression it helped you when in fact it hurt you, and you don't realize you've been hurt until months later when you try to install and it doesn't work and you blame Microsoft for it. That's what I am seeing a lot of. A lot of people don't understand they're the cause of the issue. Some people have a legitimate issue. The good news is, if you don't force 24H2, if you're on Windows 11 now, 24H2 will be offered to you in time. One of the reasons you might be not receiving Windows 24H2 as an option in Windows updates is because there's something about your computer that it knows it's not compatible with, and they're waiting until they have that addressed. Then they'll offer it to you. That's why they're holding back. Or it's because you're deep in the queue because Microsoft can't support hundreds, I don't know, tens of millions of Windows 10 users or Windows 11 users and let them all download this massive Windows 11 update all at the same time. It's not possible. So there's basically, it's a staged rollout. And you could have 3 computers in the same building, and one computer gets the offer for 24H2 automatically, and 2 others won't get that offer for weeks or, you know, for a month or 6, 8 weeks. Just because you get it for one, it has nothing to do with your location. It has to do with where that computer is in the Windows update queue, not where it's physically located. But if you want to force the install, which I've shown you how to do in a previous video, if there's anything wrong with your computer, you're going to find out. Most people can force the install. They're not going to have any problem, as you can see in the chat room from our viewers. It just works. It's interesting to me when we get somebody who has a problem because it's so rare to see it in reality. I think I've only heard from 2 people so far. That's 2 out of at least 40 people that said they've installed it, plus all the installs I've done. No problems. So, you know, let's say that's a total of 50 and we got 2 bad ones out of 50. I think that's a pretty good percentage of success. I wouldn't be afraid of it. On the other hand, you don't have to push it. You don't have to rush it. It will be offered to you when it's your turn, or you can force it. Either way, it's up to you. But that's the logic that Microsoft uses. Let me go back over here. We should be ready to reboot, aren't we? Yes, we are. So let's go ahead and restart. And we'll let that update finish. When it restarts, we'll go back over, we'll update AMD Adrenalin. That only takes a minute. And then, of course, if you have any questions about this mini PC, if I can't answer them, I will if I know the answer. Sometimes you guys ask some really good questions that I never considered. So I'll do my best to provide an answer. So right now, while we're waiting, if you have any questions about this mini PC or other related topic, mini PCs in general, let me know. Ask now in the chat. We are live, and sometimes my time is either divided focusing on the project, focusing on the chat room. I generally cannot do both at the same time. Since we're waiting for this to reboot, now I can switch my divided time to the other side, to the chat. Roger wants to know, am I full-time YouTube? Well, all you need to do is look at how many videos we make. So if I'm making a video, at the very most, I'm working part-time, which means I have to do my work after or before the video, and the videos take time to get ready. It takes at least an hour or 2 to prep the video. The videos run about 2 hours, and it takes about another half an hour to turn everything off, put the batteries on chargers, get everything put away. So all in all, the 2-hour video, we're in it for me. I started an hour early today, but we prepped yesterday. So I really started at noon for a video that starts at 1. We'll try and end it at 3 o'clock Phoenix time, and I'll have everything put away hopefully by 3:30, 3:35. Most businesses close around 6. So a lot of the work I do for my clients is remote after hours. I wait till they go home after 6 to do the work so I don't interrupt their offices. So I have a combination of doing 2 things. Whether or not you'd call that full-time, you know, like I said, it takes a big chunk out of my day, and we're doing 3-4 videos a week, 52 weeks a year. I'd pretty much call that full-time. But if YouTube were to demonetize me, I still have my regular business on the side, so I wouldn't be completely destitute. I've got my hands in many baskets. That's what you got to do when you're self-employed, man. You got to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. But I would say I'm full-time. I mean, it's close enough. There are weeks where I've made a video every single day of the week for 6-7 days in a row. I've had videos go 5 hours long. You can't do that when you have a full-time job. You may be able to do it once, maybe on a Saturday or a day off. Is that really how you want to spend your day off? Art wants to know, what's the right amount of RAM for a desktop computer to use for home? I don't know RAM, how much RAM I need. Most users, 16 gigs is plenty. 32 gigs is probably overkill. If you have RAM you're not using, you might as well not have it. So I would say 16 gigs for most users these days. Andy Kane wants to know, is there a bare bone version of the 760 Slim here? Let me take a look at the website. Let's go over there together. Let's go to my window capture right there. And let's see if there's a bare bone. Minisforum does often offer a bare bone version. Right now, it appears there is no bare bone. If we go to Amazon and look, they have different configurations. None of these are bare bone. Fair question. It does appear, at least for now, Minisforum is not offering the UM760M as a bare bone. But sometimes when you look at other models, like if we go to different products, look at, I don't know, another AMD mini PC, let's say, they got all these features. Let's take a look at the UM690S. You see here the bare bone is sold out. But they often do offer a bare bone system where you have to put in your own RAM, you have to put in your own storage, you have to put in your own operating system. Oh, they're sold out of everything here. Okay, anyway, let's get back over to our desktop, which should be booted up, I hope. Yeah, there it is. And then we'll go down here to the bottom right corner. We're going to bring up the AMD Adrenalin. This version of AMD's Radeon is not compatible. That's hilarious. That's because we got that driver from Windows Update. So, what can we do? Right click. Hide system tray. No, video profile. Open AMD software. It won't even let me open it. So I guess downloading it ahead of time was a waste of time. We'll bring up the Edge browser, and we have to go through this nonsense for the very first time we start it, which you do not have to do with Google Chrome. And Microsoft wonders, why aren't you using Edge? Because I don't want to go through all this, Microsoft. Just start. Try it again. We open it up. That's the way I want it. And then let's go to AMD. We'll just search for it. Wrong keyboard, Carey. Hold on a minute. I got to get the right keyboard. Let's see. Let me move this out of my way. Bring this keyboard over here so I can properly type on it. This should work better. AMD Adrenalin. Let's see here. First link here is what we want. Download software. I don't care about the cookies. Download software for Windows. It downloads right up here. This will get us started. Let's open it up. Yes. Let's close this because it's clutter. Let's close that. Install. So this will just overwrite the Adrenalin software that's no longer starting for us. And it's going to update that Microsoft driver too. You definitely, given a choice of Microsoft drivers or the manufacturer's driver, you're going to get a much newer driver, typically from the manufacturer, that's designed for your machine. There may be a new MediaTek Wi-Fi software available from MediaTek. There's probably a newer driver from Realtek on that 2.5 gig LAN. If you insist on always having the latest, but bear in mind that's not always a good thing. If everything's working and you just want the newest drivers for the heck of it, and you have to search them down like that, I wouldn't. I'd have to have a reason. But be aware that things like your sound card, your GPU, that's going to likely have newer drivers from the manufacturer. So Minisforum has a set of drivers work. They've tested them. But if we want to go to Realtek and download the latest 2.5 gig LAN driver, you will probably notice there's a newer version, be a couple months newer, and you probably won't notice any difference whatsoever. So you might as well just leave it alone. All right, let me get back over to the chat room here. AJ said, I keep calling it Al J, AJ. Al J said the new studio is really nice. It's a little bare right now. We are working on it daily. We will get there. It's going to be even nicer when we're done, but it's going to take a month or certainly by the end of the year, right? With all the time off we're going to have during the holidays, if that happens, we'll have some time to do the work, physical work of moving and setting up shelves and all this other stuff and organizing all of my parts. It's a lot of stuff. Well, at the same time, we're renovating the rest of the building, and it's a floor-to-ceiling renovation. So every room needs 2-3 weeks for every single room. And in the studio as a main room, it's going to require another 2 to 3 weeks itself. if that's all I did was focus on it. So I try to do just a little bit every day. You can't tell. But I know. I'll give you an example. I couldn't find if M. Lazar says you could leave it bare and just say you're using John Oliver's COVID studio. Yeah, when he was in the what did he call it? The abyss or something. I was making a video. Let me come back here. I was trying to make a video. I was going to make a video, and I did. And I needed to clone USB to SATA. And I have a couple of those USB to SATA adapters. They're very inexpensive. And for some reason, I put them in a different spot when I was packing things up and moving it over, thinking these really shouldn't be over in this side. That should be over here. It makes more sense. And the first thing I did when I went to locate those cables I needed is go right back to the place they're not supposed to be. And, you know, if I would have just left them alone, I would have found them. I never did find them. I'm like, I don't have time for this. So I went on Amazon. I ordered one for like $6. It was supposed to arrive the next day. It didn't. It said delivery is going to be late. The video was scheduled for the day after. I gave myself, you know, an extra day. And it was like $6, free delivery. It was super cheap. And luckily, the Amazon package arrived about 2 hours before showtime. Last night, I was digging around looking for something. And guess what I found? I put them all together over here. But down here, and I will have to organize this. Check this out. There's a USB to SATA. There's a USB to SATA. That's the $6 one I bought. There's a USB to SATA. That's USB-C to SATA. This is a much longer USB to SATA. SATA, data. That's USB to SATA. I either have a bunch of them or I have none. So everything has to be organized so the next time I need one, I know exactly where to go to get it. That's how it was set up at Studio B. But that didn't happen overnight. The reason I have so many, one was too short, one was Type-C USB, and then I think I lost them at Studio B. I forgot where. They were buried under something. So then I bought another one. And then I came here and I couldn't find them and I bought another one. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 USB to SATA cables. And I very rarely even use SATA drives anymore. But I will be ready next time. Cost me $6 to make that video. Let's see. If the camera looks like it's out of focus, it's likely because your resolution on YouTube is set too low. Look for the gear icon on the bottom right of your video and check your resolution. We're broadcasting at 1080. But yeah, if it looks out of focus, likely your resolution got reduced if it's set to auto. YouTube likes to mess with you like that. All right, let's go back over, see our desktop again. And it did finish the AMD Adrenalin probably 5 minutes ago. And we'll hit restart and just let those changes take effect. And just if you're curious how long this takes to boot, let's go ahead and just keep it live on the Minisforum UM760 Slim. And let's see what our boot time is. No signal means the system is turning off and back on. There's your power on self-test or post screen. And then you're going to see the little toilet bowl flushing right down there, the little circle going down the drain. And then whatever it finishes updating the update, we get to our desktop. Now, because of that update, it's going to sometimes pop up a screen like this. If you want to get rid of this, protect your files and memories, back up your PC, I'm going to say decline. Backup is recommended, skip for now. Sometimes there's a series of screens and you can hit skip. If you say remind me later, it's going to keep popping up. So it's best to just go through it, tell it cancel, tell it skip. It'll leave you alone for a while until another update activates it. Let's go ahead and run Carey's Windows 10 Optimizer on this. Now the optimizer is intelligent. All the boxes that are checked It's looking in your registry and your settings to see if these settings have applied to your computer or not. Otherwise, the box is unchecked. And if you right-click on the box, you can reverse it. So nothing I'm doing with the optimization tool is permanent. Everything is reversible if you don't like anything. If you saw a lot of access denied errors, that's fine. That's normal part of indexing, turning off. Let's restart now. This should give us a more accurate representation of restart time since we're not finishing a driver install or we're not finishing a Windows Update install. Those take longer to shut down and restart because it's still installing whatever the update or driver is. This is a clean restart, so if you want to time it, see how long it takes to boot, it should be, I don't know, 13, 15 seconds. You guys tell me. I'm guessing. If you add like 64 gigs of RAM or more, this will take longer. If I put 96 gigs of RAM in this, it's going to take much, much longer for the system to power up. It has to check all that RAM every single time you turn on the machine. This is what other content creators don't tell you. I don't know if they don't know. I don't know if they don't care. But if you add 64 gigs or more of RAM to your computer, you will slow your boot time probably nearly to double. If you put 96 gigs, you know, your boot time is going to take a while. And if the idea is you're adding the RAM to make your computer go faster, you've actually slowed down your boot time. And if you're not using the RAM, you didn't do anything. You just wasted your money. Let's take a look at what our solid state drive is in here. So we'll use Crystal Disk Info first. And let's see what it says. Yeah, it's a Kingston 1 terabyte drive. Very good. And then let's run Crystal Disk Mark and get an idea of our maximum speed on this. We'll do all the testing, close that out, clean the clutter. And while that's running, let me put myself in a corner here. Stay with me for a second as I make myself appear. And then I move myself somewhere out of this. You know what? Let's put this here. And then let's go back over here. And I guess we'll move this over here so I'm not covering it up. So 4,500, that's a good speed. You can get up to 7,000, but if you're going to spend that kind of money, this unit's going to cost more. And that little SSD is going to run hotter. So this is right down the middle, and likely you're not going to see any performance difference outside of a benchmark. In other words, if I change this drive out to a high-performance Gen 4 drive, not only am I adding more heat, and I'll see numbers up to 7,000, in actually using the computer daily for actual computer use, not computer measuring, I likely won't notice any difference whatsoever. It's not going to boot any faster. Everything is going to be faster by milliseconds. That doesn't make me faster. And if Word launches or Outlook launches a quarter of a second quicker, a human being doesn't notice that. If you're using this for gaming and your levels load faster, if you go to a faster drive, I guess, but that's not really what this is designed for. But I'll let you decide on your own how you want to spend your money. I just want your expectations to be set correctly, that looking at benchmarks all day is not using a computer. That's not using it. The whole point of it, it's like someone gave you a calculator and all you're interested in is how big and wide and thick it is. It's like, well, you're supposed to use the calculator. Anyway, you do whatever you want. I just find that behavior very strange. All right, let's see. Martin Hogg joins us, says hello. Peter says hello. Mark Gaines says, Carey, my PC does not wake from sleep when I move my mouse or press keys on a keyboard. I have that option turned on. That's the problem with sleep mode. It often creates a lot of what I would call completely avoidable support calls to fix a problem that isn't a problem. Sleep mode is intended to save the batteries on something like a tablet or a laptop. If your PC does not have batteries, don't put it to sleep. What you should do is have it turn off the display after a certain amount of use, because the display is really the big power-hungry source of consumption of power. And the modern monitor, you don't have to turn it off. It'll basically go into standby. You should get like a little amber LED that comes on, but let the computer run. Let it idle. Don't set it in high performance mode and leave it there. Allow it to idle, to be in the regular power setting balance mode, and you should see no difference in your power bill. It'll wake up every single time, no problem. Strongly, strongly advise not using sleep mode on the desktop. It's unnecessary and it causes avoidable support questions and problems that can take hours to figure out. It often is related to your video drivers. That's the #1 cause of sleep not working, are video drivers. JD wants to know if I can benchmark this on a Linux-based system. We're not a Linux channel here. We're Windows-based. We're here for the masses. We're the channel for the non-technical people. We're the channel for the average, ordinary computer user who's looking for a down-to-earth, plain English, understandable channel of content that they can understand, that doesn't talk over their head. When we sometimes use terms like NVMe and SSD, SATA, BIOS, CMOS, this should be very, very intimidating to the average user. And so a lot of tech channels are there for other tech people. I don't see many tech channels that are for the vast majority of computer owners who don't really have a channel for them, for tech. And that's what I'm trying to fill here. There are plenty of Linux-based channels and plenty of Mac-based channels. There's plenty of channels that'll show you how to fix your refrigerator. We're not any of those. So anything Linux-based, and part of the reason I do that is in my real business that I've been running over 30 years, I've been in business, none of my clients use Linux. So there's no money. I can't stay in business if I support Linux. It's very, very difficult to find work. But if I fix Windows and Windows networking, I have all the work I could possibly want. I just have to go get it. If everything was the other way around, then that's what I would be doing to stay in business. If everybody was using Linux, I'd be servicing Linux because I could make a living and work would be easy to find. So here, there's a reason why I don't despise it or hate it. It's fun. If your time is worth nothing, it's free. I won't spend my time on it because that time could be spent earning money. You can earn money servicing Linux, but it's just harder to find the work. For me, it is. So we don't do that here. Let's see what other questions you've got. I mean, it's a fair question. We sometimes get Linux users in here, and I feel like sometimes the tech enthusiasts are trying to change my channel into what they want it to be instead of what I intend it to be. So if this is not the right channel for you, we're not changing. This is not what we do. This may not be right for you, and that's okay. We're trying to appeal to the vast majority of Windows users who don't have much information or clue how the computer works. And we're trying to make that transparent and clear, as well as showcase different models of PCs they might want to consider buying if they don't really understand why should I buy one over another. And that is the heart of this channel. Even if we start talking technical stuff like networking, it's really intended to make it understandable so that my mother could understand it. That's really my goal. If she were still around today, I'd have to explain things to her in a way that she can understand it by using analogies. To say, okay, you know how you do whatever, you change the oil in a car so that the engine doesn't break. Well, for that reason, we do Windows updates and we make sure we keep our maintenance up on our PC, even though there's nothing wrong with it. We clean out our temp files from time to time and free up the hard drive space. It's got to be explained in a very gentle, soft way, not in an intimidating way and say, here, Mom, here's Linux. Let me teach you something completely new. That would be very discouraging for her and for me to put her through that. So let's see what else we got in the chat room here. John Famler says on the Minisforum page, they're saying HDMI 2.1 can get 8K at 6 gigahertz. I'm going to say right now, it's obvious you ain't getting close to 8K at 60 for this amount of money. 8K at 60 doesn't sound right, does it? 8K at 30. I don't have anything 8K that I can test it with, so I don't know. I don't even like 4K, quite honestly. Our capture card is a 1080 capture card. I do have a 4K capture card on a separate streaming machine, and we might play with that here in the near future. But in the meantime, we're broadcasting at 1080. Frankie B measured the boot time on this. He said it was 13 seconds. That's pretty average on most modern computers, regardless of how much processor you have. If it's been built within the last 8 years, it probably boots in about 13 seconds. Even if it's a SATA drive versus NVMe, the boot time's pretty much milliseconds difference. Richard Palmentier says he upgraded to Windows 11 24H2 using, from Windows 10. Yeah, we talked about that. Captain Blinsky says, my UC build boots to desktop in 5 seconds, takes 20 seconds to restart. You might have something like fast boot enabled in your BIOS, which is almost like a sleep mode or a hibernation, which is fine. You can continue to use that, but it's not necessarily a clean startup at 5 seconds. Mark Liebowitz says, using the computer to watch benchmarks is still using the computer. I guess, but you know what I mean? Like, it's supposed to do a job. To me, running benchmarks isn't a job. I don't have any clients where I go to their business or their home to fix a benchmark issue and I get paid for that. And the reason they call me to fix it is because when it's not working, they're losing money. And if they're losing money, they go out of business and I lose a client because they went out of business. So there's a stress there, right? And Mark knows. He knows what I meant. It's all about, again, you don't see a lot of this on the tech side here on YouTube. People that actually do the work, the techs and the reason why they do it. Salem Techsperts is a great example of how difficult it is to run a repair shop today, and things he absolutely will not work on, how much he hates RGB, how that adds a lot of time and frustration to a simple job, makes it more complicated. It's the bane of existence for PCs. I agree. I got a lot of cable management to do on that Cougar build with 3 separate RGB controllers that I got to figure out where I'm going to put them and how I'm going to wire them so it looks nice and clean. And that little flappy door thing that was covering up the side of the motherboard is now in the way, because now if we cover that, we can't see the RGB cables going to the power on the motherboard. That has to come out. So all this just for pretty colors. If that's what the customer wants, that's what the customer wants. But the customer's going to pay extra for it, or the repair shop's going to take it in the shorts on the labor, just so you can have colors. But, you know, when I go to a client's office, nobody's got RGB in an office. I've been to a lot of corporations, a lot of dentist offices, a lot of lawyers' offices, small businesses, real estate agents, accountants. Nobody's got any RGB on their computers. And even if they did, they wouldn't call me. It's never happened. Come over here, we're going to pay you your hourly rate because my RGB isn't working. Come on over to the dentist office and fix our RGB, fix our liquid cooler. How would I run a business? It just doesn't happen. But if you keep watching YouTube videos, that's all you see. But these people are just, that's what they're doing on their side for fun. You want to make a living out of it? Listen to what I'm telling you. Or at least, if you're considering wanting to make a living out of it, have your proper expectations set. Because I've been evolving as the computers have been evolving, and what I do today is very different than what I did in 1997. When did I start? 1991 was my first professional job building computers. It is a very foreign and different thing to build a computer today. So you have to change along with it. And customers are smarter today. They're more knowledgeable than they were in the past with regards to explaining what RAM is. Or, you know, I used to have to explain the difference between a 486SX and a 486DX with a math coprocessor and why you might want that or whether or not you care. These days, we don't have those discussions anymore. But anyway, we do try and come from a business side of things here for the average user, because the people who call us to service them obviously don't know how to fix it themselves. They want to pay somebody they know and trust isn't going to rip them off, is going to do the job right. And that's what's kept me in business. My advertising is word of mouth and referral by keeping the customers happy. What else we got in the chat here? And then JD says, that's a fair enough explanation, but I'm still going to ask, as much of the older hardware is still viable using Linux releases. So the older hardware may be viable for Linux when we have a year still before Windows 10 expires. Again, we have to talk about business. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for business. I wouldn't be here just running this as a hobby. It's just not sustainable. I could not pay my bills. So the way I've been paying my bills is by going to work, by fixing computers, installing networks. We had a recent network issue we've been dealing with 2 separate clients. One was basically the internet service provider cut the cable. They were doing construction next door and they dug too deep and cut the fiber. And it took the internet service provider 3 days to get that repaired. That business has like 90 employees. Their phone systems don't work. Their computers don't work. For 3 days, business days. Who's paying those employees? To do what? When's it going to come back on? We don't know. What can I do? I can't do anything. My hands are tied. This is on the internet. This is outside of the building, down the street. What can we do to make it happen faster? Nothing. You'd have to buy a second service provider and buy a router that has what's called a failover. So they ended up going with Starlink, got the Starlink installed as the failover. They have to pay monthly for Starlink and they have to pay monthly for their internet. And if one or the other goes out, they're not out of business, right? They can keep operating business as normal. When we're talking about this kind of money at stake, we're not worried about trying to keep old hardware alive because that costs more in time than it's worth in a business. There's also security concerns. In a business, we want everything to be the same. You're going to have policies and procedures that you follow for each individual company to meet their requirements. And if we vary, like this person's got Windows 10, this person's got a Mac, this person over here is running Linux, that would be a nightmare to support that. They will spend more on support for keeping that old computer alive than it's worth or to replace it. So normally in a business, regardless of what's happening with Windows 10 or Windows 11, a normal replacement period is 4 to 5 years. 4 to 5 years is what we get out of computers in a business. Some businesses run it a bit longer. These are not good businesses. That's not a good business decision to have something so critical to your business be an afterthought and you're trying to squeeze everything out of it. Or some people running a business from home that run it for their business during the day and then let the kids play games on it at night. That's a nightmare situation because it always results in the kids clicking on something they shouldn't have. Then you get a panic call the next business day where the person says, I can't do my job now. Something happened to my computer. Like you've got to separate if you want to take your business seriously, separate the computers, give one for the kids, one for your business. But this is what we're talking about, somebody keeping themselves alive to pay their bills, to buy food. It's not about trying to keep an old computer alive. There's no emotional attachment there. Let it be somebody else's problem so we can focus on what we do for a living. We don't want to focus on getting the computer configured. We want to pay Carey to get them all configured the same, keep them all updated and secure at all times, make sure the data's backed up, make sure that temp files are clean, the computers are always tuned. We can address problems and prevent problems earlier. Instead of being reactive, we're proactive. And these companies don't have any downtime. Their employees are very productive. The customers are always helped. That's what they pay me for. So for the hobbyist that wants to take an old computer somebody threw out or is no longer Windows 10 supported, they're like, oh, this is still a good machine. I realize there are people that like to go through the trash and say, oh, this is perfectly good stuff. I don't run a business that way, and I wouldn't sell equipment that was that old, because you're looking at any computer that's not supporting Windows 10 will be no less than 10 years old. Next year, when Windows 10 is no longer supported, that means your computer is 10 years old or older. You're well past the time to replace it for your own safety. If you want to play with Linux, I'm not discouraging it. This is just not the place that we do that because I can't make a profit from that. That's it. John Famler said, agreed, if a PC is being used for business, you have to treat it as food for the business. Sometimes that means you have to spend some money on your tools. Look, businesses spend a lot of money on rent. They spend a lot of money on other business type expenses. Computers, that's tiny for most, but even a small lawyer's office, it's not that expensive. It's pretty cheap, considering all the other expenses they have. So there's no good excuse to put it off. I'm just looking in the chat here. Mark Leibowitz, who also runs a computer repair business, says he's earned about $47.39 supporting Linux. Yeah, to me, it's not worth the time and my investment of time. I have a client who purchased, they hired another tech to put in a wireless network system and camera security system. And they said to me, is that okay to let this tech do this? Yeah, he wants to add wireless and cameras. Yeah, let him do it. Then what I found out is he basically took over the entire network. And the next day I got calls that their printers weren't printing and all kinds of issues that this tech, he didn't contact me. He didn't reach out to me. He didn't ask me any questions. He didn't talk to me. He just did a job without knowing or caring about the current network situation. And he put in an enterprise level router in a small office. Ubiquiti Dream Machine, and I don't know anything about it. And I don't want to learn it just for one customer. And I told this customer, I don't want to learn this for you. You're the only customer I have that has this. I would have never recommended it. It's way overkill. He goes, well, replace it with what you think should be there. I said, it's going to cost you $10,000 to replace. I mean, essentially, we have to replace the cameras, and we have to replace the router, and we have to replace all this stuff is all rack mounted like a big business. It's only got 9 employees. And like, you've already got this investment. Just hire the other guy to keep maintenance on it. Say, I don't want to hire the other guy. I want you. Well, why didn't you hire me to do this job? I would have never put this equipment in. And because you made a decision to buy something I don't support, doesn't mean now I have to learn it and support it for one customer. I'm not doing it. So that's part of my struggle. So they're having a problem with it where it's intermittently disconnecting from their ISP. And I'm like, what do you do when that happens? And they say, well, we unplug the silver box thing, which is the Ubiquiti Dream Machine. We unplug that and we plug it back in, everything works in. I go, if your internet keeps going down, and your fix is always the same, you're not unplugging the modem, you're not unplugging the switch, you're just unplugging the silver box thing and you're plugging it back in. It sounds to me something's wrong with that silvery box thing. You need to call the guy that installed it because maybe it's misconfigured or it may be under warranty. It needs to be replaced. Out of my hands. I hate being in that situation. And if they had something Linux, I'm not going to learn Linux for one customer. Not doing it. You got a question about Windows, you got a question about networking, you got a question about Microsoft Office, if you've got a question about Adobe, these are products that are used, almost universally. I can help you. All those things, all those common business uses. The minute you have a proprietary piece of software, like dentists have a piece of software called Dentrix, no idea. Mick Woods wants to know, looking at our Crystal Disk Mark results here on the Minisforum, what do these numbers mean? So there's different ways of file transfer, right? So what we're looking at on the top numbers up here, we're looking at the maximum read and write speeds. That's if we got a big file, like I have big video files at the end of my videos, my saved file may be 6 to 12 gigs in size, depending on the quality of it. And when I copy that large 6 gig file, that would be a sequential, SEQ, sequential read or write. That is the best performance you're going to get out of the drive. It won't go any faster than that. Then we talk about different types of sequential and random 4K writes. And that represents more average computer usage where you're opening up, let's say Microsoft Word, and there's a bunch of DLLs that load and other little sub applications or supporting files that need to load. Tiny little files, but there's hundreds of them. And so that represents different types of file transfer of smaller files and then random files, because not all files are sequential. They might be scattered all over the drive. And so what this is representing is sort of a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. And then you've got the middle. I'm only focused on the best. I know that this drive won't go any faster than that. Under the best scenario possible, this is the speed limit it's going to hit, right in that area. That's what I care about. These other numbers I don't care about. They just mean nothing to me. I just want to know, in a world that's perfect, what is the best this drive could do? If everything were perfect, it won't do better than this, at least not by much. So that's what it tells me. And I like to save this information, and I put it on the desktop, so the next time I see this machine, I can remember I have so many machines, right? And I know that, let's just type Crystal Dismark. If I were to want to upgrade this machine, saving this information instead of having to rerun it may change my mind. I might go, hey, you know what? That's better than I thought it was going to be. So, did I save it? Where did it go? I thought I saved it. File, save image. Did I put it in downloads? I want it to be a JPEG. Huh. Where did it go? Crystal disk mark on the desktop as a JPEG. Save. There it is, right there. So now I can close this, and just in the future, I have it saved, and I can take a look at what's in there. I also like to install VLC and not use any of the Microsoft movie and TV or other media players. This is free, open source. It's been around for years. If I get any media that I download and VLC won't play it, I delete that media and try and find a different source of that media. I don't try and download a codec. That's the best way you can get a virus. It just takes a second to install. And then with VLC installed, I can go through the apps. Again, we go to Settings, and we'll go to Apps over here, and Installed Apps. Let me move this over here. Make sure you can see it okay. I'm still kind of in the way, aren't I? Let's get rid of camera 1 so you can see the whole screen. Now, everybody's going to do a little bit different, right? But I'm considering what I want to support, and I want to avoid support questions. So I don't need, nor should my customer need, anything I'm removing. We don't need Cortana. I leave that alone. What I'm looking for is like Microsoft Maps. We don't need. We just click on the 3 dots, hit uninstall. It comes off in seconds. This thing that's called Media Player, VLC replaces that. I don't want it. I uninstall it. And you'll see it happens very quickly. We've got Microsoft News. I don't want that. So hit the 3 dots, uninstall. Microsoft OneDrive, I'll leave it there. Microsoft Teams, I guess I can leave it there. Microsoft Minecraft, no, that's coming off. Mobile plans, that's coming off. Movies and TV, that's coming off. These are tiny little, it's not that big of a deal. I don't need an uninstaller for this. It's so minor. And then we look through like Microsoft People. I don't know anybody that uses that. We'll take it out. All of this can be added back in. It's not that big of a deal. This remote desktop connection I think is dangerous. Should be uninstalled. But since it's going to require a reboot, let's just go through the rest of the list first. Anything Xbox we can uninstall. And then work our way back up. Solitaire is fine. Snipping tool. All right, so then we're back to remote desktop. Let's uninstall it. Yes, it's going to require a reboot. It's not that big of an app. It only takes a second to uninstall it. Do you want to restart your computer? Yes. Now again, if a client wanted that, it's very easy to put any of that back on. So that's how I configure all computers that go to my clients. That's pretty much it, top to bottom. And this is a good time when you've got it set up to make an Acronis image of your drive, so you never have to go through all that again. Martin wants to know, do I still recommend using Windows Automatic Disk Cleanup in settings? Oh, that reminds me. I like to use the Microsoft PC Manager, which is basically a replacement. Think of it as a replacement for CCleaner. Don't use CCleaner anymore. Go down here and just type in PC Manager, and it says Microsoft PC Manager. Click on that. It opens up the Microsoft Store, even though I'm not logged in. I hit the Get button right here and install it. Again, it's a small app. It only takes a couple seconds to install. And then it's downloading right now. Look at that, already downloaded. It's almost done. And then we'll open it. Okay, I can close this window. Start automatically, yes. Restore settings, that means it wants to put Bing back as your search engine. No. Start. Right here it says Set Smart Boost. I turn this on, so it'll do it automatically. Go back to the home. Go ahead and let's boost it now. Here's our memory usage and temporary files. Hit boost. Little rocket moves across, let it finish. Okay, and then it says disk cleanup right down here. I hit that. Scans the drive for any disk cleanup. 4.2 gig of items. All the boxes are already checked. I like to check all the boxes. I don't know why these are unchecked, but either way, it's all built into Microsoft. That way you don't use a third-party utility, which is much, much safer to use this. Now, yeah, it freed up almost 4 gigs of space. Done. Close it, and it sits in the system tray, but I can't see it. So that means I want to go back to right-click, taskbar settings. I want to look for other system tray icons. I want to find MSPC Manager and turn that on so it's not hidden, so I don't have to hit this up arrow. See, the up arrow is hiding Microsoft Drive. That's good. That's what I want hidden. But with the items I've selected, they're not hidden. So I can see my PC Manager, I can see my AMD Adrenalin, I can see my status of my antivirus, I can see the status of my Bluetooth, I can see the status of my network. This is also something new I've never noticed with 24H2. We're running 23H2, right? If I unplug the network cable from the mini PC, watch what this does right here. It should turn to a globe. It does. And when I plug it back in, it's negotiating with the router to obtain an IP address. And when it does, which takes a second, that'll turn back into a globe, right? Or I'm sorry, it turns back into a little terminal, little monitor. Let's put 24H2 on this and watch how that behavior changes. I haven't seen anybody talk about this. It's kind of interesting. So to get 24H2, we've already covered that. We can download the installation assistant, or I can simply use my downloaded Windows 11 USB drive. It might save some time, I don't know. I'm gonna plug in my Windows 11 USB drive to the mini PC, which I just accidentally unplugged. That's not good to shut your computer off that way. Let me, whoopsie. I was moving the computer around to plug my Windows 11 flash drive in there, and I stepped on the cord and pulled it out. So let's turn this back on. Let's try this one more time. I gotta watch my step. All right, let me turn off camera 1 here for a second. Because as soon as this thing boots to the desktop, if I can go full screen on my side. There we go. This thing is whisper quiet. All right, so I'm gonna go over here to this PC, which is an icon that's added with my optimization tool. We'll click on this drive here. I think that's what I want. And then I can just run setup. Install Windows 11. Yes. Next. Just another way of doing it. If you've downloaded the ISO image and made a custom installation. USB, as I showed how in my video the other day, last week. And this will get us 24H2 from 23H2. Okay, we'll accept our license agreement. This may take a minute. getting updates. So now it's downloading updates from Microsoft. So some people are under the impression they're getting the latest version of Windows 11 24H2 on the installation media. You're not. The ISO image is still the same, but what's happening right now, because we're plugged into the internet while we're doing the install, it's getting those updates ahead of time so that when it's done, you will have the latest version of 24H2. 24H2 has many different build numbers. This will get us the latest build, is what I'm trying to say. In the meantime, we'll let that install. I'll put back camera 1 temporarily so we can see me. And I'll just make the camera a little smaller so we can keep an eye on what's going on. Maybe I'll put myself down here. We'll keep an eye on that. Anyway, let's go back over to the chat room. Mick Woods with a £5 super chat. Thank you, Mick. He says, thanks for such an informative and entertaining stream. Thank you for contributing and being a part of it. I think the people who are just spectators who don't participate, they're missing out on the stream. You really got to interact. This is an interactive channel, and we really, really encourage people to come into the chat room and just be kind. Just say hello, that's all it takes, and you will have a completely different experience being interactive with our channel versus being passive and watching. It's so much better interacting while we're live. I certainly think it's better. And if you're not doing that, you're missing 50% of what this channel's offering, because at least 50% of this channel is all about the interaction. Mark Gaines says, unfortunately, the PC Manager is not available in the UK. You can change your region settings in Windows. If you really want it, change your region to US, then you can get it, and then change it back to UK. So just Google change region settings, Windows 11. It's really easy. You don't have to use a VPN. You don't have to change your IP address. All you do is change your region settings to US, and you can download PC Manager, install it, and then change your region settings back to UK if you want to work around that. It's a European, the EU has a privacy law that I don't think Microsoft has verified, what's the word, conforms to those laws. So for that reason, it's not available to you. But it's a very easy workaround. Change your region settings, go download it, change your region settings back. No big deal. Unless you're into the whole, EU privacy thing and you're not going to install anything that doesn't conform to that. That's up to you. Rob Dvorak wants to know if pressing the thumbs up button icon under my video helps me. Whenever you see a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whether you're listening to music on Spotify, you're watching something on Netflix, what you're doing is you're telling that service what you like or dislike, so it can offer you other content in that same genre. So when you're hitting the thumbs up button for me, is it helping me? Maybe. It's helping you. If you enjoy this content that I'm creating, you're teaching YouTube what you like. The more you hit the thumbs up button on different videos that you like, the better the suggestions from YouTube get. It's really helping you. It kind of helps us both, but it's clearly designed to work the same way that when you hit thumbs up on a Netflix show, does that help the show? Viewership is all that matters. So if a show is getting low viewership and everyone who watches it gives it a thumbs up, it still may be canceled. And if a show has massive viewership and only a small percentage of those viewers hit the thumbs up, that show makes enough money to go to season 2. It's not really based on thumbs up or thumbs down. It's really based on how many views. But that's essentially what the thumbs up and thumbs down are for. They're for you, the viewer, so YouTube can make better suggestions to other content that's similar to what you like, or the thumbs down button. Tell YouTube, I don't want to see content like this suggested to me. So that's what they're there for. There is some debate about how the algorithm for YouTube works regarding thumbs up and thumbs down,
but nobody knows. It's a secret, and it always changes. Even if you figured it out today, they're going to change it in a couple days. You've got to start all over again. There's no figuring it out. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of people saying, well, here's how I think it works. And they might be right for a few days. All right, what's this thing doing right now? Ready to install. We're going to keep our personal files. Yes, that's right. Just hit install. And there we go. So, yeah, let me look again while we're waiting here. Let me go back through the chat room. I appreciate all your questions. Charlie Purdy wants to know, can you get WordPad back in 24H2? I have never used WordPad. I always felt that, Notepad was good enough. And in 24H2, Microsoft, what they call deprecated, they retired it. They say, look, this isn't worth supporting anymore. There are always freeware versions of things like Microsoft Office and WordPad. Might I ask, what do you do with WordPad that you can't do in Notepad? Why do you want it back? What is it about WordPad? Because I've never really heard anybody complain about WordPad before. Most people don't even know what it is. When you put unsupported software on your computer because you insist on bypassing Microsoft's rules, there's a reason why Microsoft took it out. It becomes a security risk, and it needs updates, and it needs support. It's not a toaster. So if you insist on putting that on, it's like you're putting a back door in without a lock that every day becomes weaker and weaker and weaker without any further support. There are some open source alternatives, and maybe the chat room here can recommend a few. And of course, you've always got the Google applications as well. I always use Notepad, but I'm very curious. I've never met anybody that uses WordPad before. Shamim Kajveras mentions there is OneNote. Yeah, absolutely, OneNote is kind of the replacement. Richard Palmentier uses the open source LibreOffice, which is a full Word, Excel, it's a word processor, it's a spreadsheet. It's all free. LibreOffice. Troll McTrollington suggests maybe they like the WordPad interface. The interface is always going to change. Just like as the Windows desktop and icons have changed. We are not going back to Windows XP. You can make your Windows desktop look like that, but in doing so, you might actually damage future updates or things with these third-party software that, if it's about security, safety, and performance, not so much about comfort. You adjust to it. But if you insist on having it adjust to you, there may be consequences down the road, maybe not. FM Lazar said WordPad is like Microsoft Word Lite. What are you doing? I'm trying to figure out, what do you do with it? What are you doing in WordPad? Why do you like to use WordPad? I always use Notepad. Richard Palmentier mentions an open source piece of software that's been available for years, and it's called Notepad++. And that's like Microsoft's Notepad on steroids, making it more like WordPad. It's free, it's been around for years, it's well established, you can trust it. And Randy Rybalski also mentions LibreOffice as well. So LibreOffice and OpenOffice are two free open source versions of Microsoft Office. They don't have all the features. They've probably got 10% of the features, but that's what the majority of users use. The majority of users don't use 90% of the features in Microsoft Word. FM Lazar says what Notepad++ doesn't do that WordPad does is formatting the text. In WordPad, he continues, the WordPad code was for CNC programming pending on the CNC machine. Interesting. That's very specific. I haven't heard that before. As far as I know, programming the CNC machine requires using some CNC software, much like drafting. At least from what I've witnessed from my customers that have CNC machines, I've never seen them use WordPad to program their CNC machines. Doesn't mean they're not doing it. I've just never seen them do it that way. they have an application. It's like a CAD application. I'm trying to remember what it's called. MATLAB? Something. It looks very technical. The equivalent of like brain surgery in computers. And the people that program CNC machines, from what I'm told, make like doctors type of money. They make really good salaries. Ross Mulligan says, I use WordPad for my personal meeting notes, but I don't live and die by it. But why WordPad over Notepad? What is it about WordPad that you prefer? I'm not judging. I'm genuinely asking because I don't like WordPad at all. I'm very happy it's gone. I can never use it. I like simplicity. Me personally, I want it simple. That's what Notepad is. It's simple. Let me make notes. Let me put them away. If I want to make something fancy, I use Microsoft Word. If I don't want to pay for Microsoft Word, then I'll use Google Write. Same thing. Or there's OpenOffice and LibreOffice. All right, so we're just at over 2 hours right now. I just want to finish this Windows 11 install for two reasons. One, because we're live and unscripted, I want you to see, are we going to get a blue screen? Are we going to get a crash? It's not likely. The ones you're hearing about online complaining about problems are a very small minority of users. If you're debating on whether or not to install it, it's very safe to install. Always make sure you have a backup of your machine. If you don't, you should regardless. Your data could be gone at any minute for any reason that you never expected. Just like a car accident, it just happens. And when your data's gone, the only one who cares is you. It's your data. It doesn't bother me none. So what you can do is use something like Acronis, make a backup image of your entire machine. It might take a while. Get a backup drive, copy it off, go to bed. It'll be done in the morning if you've got that much stuff. Once you've got a good backup, that's like a safety net. You can do whatever you want. Worst case scenario is you restore the backup, go back in time, and the machine is back to exactly the same condition it was with all the data it had, including any temp files or even any viruses. If it had them, you're backing them up. So the idea is you back up before that happens. Then, if anything should happen, if you should get a fire, a theft, if your data, your drive just dies one day, if you accidentally download ransomware and they want $500 within 72 hours to get the decryption key, just restore your backup. No big deal. So this is a brand new build. I'm not worried about breaking Windows. There's no data on it. I just reinstall Windows. But I'm very confident that this is going to install without any problems whatsoever. And then once it does, I want to show you just a little thing I noticed that I think is pretty cool. When I unplug the Ethernet cable and plug it back in, and while it's negotiating, instead of the globe or the terminal, we get something a little different. So this should only take a few minutes longer. So we're going to run just a little bit long today. In the meantime, while we're waiting, I'm trying my best to address your questions or understand why you use WordPad instead of Notepad. Just genuinely curious. Patrick Manning mentions they don't update OpenOffice anymore. Oh, that's sad. Old Man 55 says show and tell is a great way for learning for me. You know what's better for learning is actually doing what you see on these videos, having some experience. Nothing can replace that. But if this can inspire you and guide you to have that experience, that's great. But don't replace watching videos or reading articles online as experience. It's what's talked about versus what you actually do. The value of doing it has a far greater educational impact than watching somebody do it. But if watching somebody do it inspires you to do it yourself, that's where the lesson is, when you do it yourself. So I encourage you, and I hope to inspire you, to not be afraid of your computer, to not be afraid of 24H2 or whatever people are, doing their clickbait on. If you want to install it, you're welcome to. If you want to wait for Microsoft to offer it, you're welcome to do that too. Whatever you're most comfortable with. And you should always have a backup. We have 30% off of all Acronis products for all our viewers, and the link is below. It's the product I use in my business. I've been using it for years, and I'm so happy they partnered up with us to give you guys that discount. You've got to the end of the year to use that 30% off. We use RoboForm for our password manager. So many logins and passwords. Don't use the same password everywhere. Once that gets leaked, then hackers can just log into everywhere for you. Generate a unique password for every site. Let RoboForm encrypt it and save it. And you can copy or install RoboForm on any number of devices, on your phone, on your laptop, on your desktop. It's all one price. And it's an annual subscription. It's all encrypted. It's so much better. Once you use it, you'll wonder how you live without it. 30% off for all new customers for RoboForm. We can't thank them enough. Again, it's a product I use. It's a product I recommend. I treat you guys just like you were customers. Finally, our friends at VIP CDK Deals, where we get legal, legitimate Windows and Microsoft Office license keys. Instead of using WordPad, you can get Microsoft Office, what version is it? 2019, I think, for like 40 bucks. I'd have to check it. And get that activated and you're good to go. It's not very pricey. If you want to get WordPad back, which is ultimately what the question was, right? Hey, Carey, don't worry about how I use it or why. Just answer my question. The reason I ask questions, I often find out customers are trying to solve their own problems in an incorrect way. So a customer might call me and say, how come my faster network card isn't resulting in any difference in my internet speed? Or they're calling saying, how do I get this new network card to work? It's not working. And I help them, right? We go through all this time finding the drivers and doing this all over the phone. We get it all done and the customer still has the same problem. But they never told me that. So I have to learn to ask. Why, first of all, before asking me how to fix your network card, why are you installing it? And they go, well, I want to make my internet faster. Okay, that's a waste of time and money. That's not going to make your internet faster. You got to call your ISP and you got to pay money for that. Or you got to upgrade your modem. That has happened to me so many times. So what I've learned to do is rather than answer why somebody is looking for a fix, I want to know why they want the fix. How are you using it? What are you doing with that? Because a lot of times what happens is they're doing something in an old-fashioned or incompatible way. And I go, hold on, that's not the right approach to solve your problem. Now that I understand what it is you're looking for or trying to accomplish, let me use my 30 plus years of experience to offer you the solution versus you thinking you've already got it figured out and you just want to know the answer to, this. But I don't know that that's the right answer for you for what you're trying to accomplish. So I've learned in this business, you sort of have to interrogate people. It saves a lot of time. Once you find out why they're doing it, oh no. Not always, but it happens a lot. Bill Baggins with a $12 super chat says, greetings from Sierra Vista, Arizona. It's still hot here also. Hey, thank you, Bill. Thank you for supporting the channel. Bill Baggins out there in Sierra Vista. That's down by the border, isn't it? Steve Miller says Notepad++ also includes plugins to enhance functionality. That's interesting. Ross Mulligan, oh, we talked about that one. Arnold Albert said the last time I used WordPad was when I was building a web page. I remember that. Setting all your HTML code up. Patrick Manning says LibreOffice it does get supported. It's updated. So LibreOffice, I guess, if you want a free alternative to Microsoft Word and Excel. Okay, if I look at Martin Hogg says, Doug Betts calls that dealing with normals. We're all normal. Some of us are just more into it, and others have to deal with it whether they like it or not. They're sort of forced to deal with it. But yeah, I guess normals is one way to look at it. I'm actually a little surprised that we haven't got any further than this on our install. Take a quick look here. Full screen. What's it doing? Oh, we're 92. We're 92% there. So we're almost done. And you'll see it's going to work. I already know it's going to be fine. The likelihood of an issue is it's a very low statistic that we're going to have an issue with it. Phil Stott says, Carey, do you remember the 5 megabyte Winchester drive? So I think that was an old RLL or MFM drive, wasn't it? We used to work with drives that were massive back in, well, like 1991, the drives were still pretty big. A 500 meg drive took up like 3 5¼ inch drive bays. It weighed a ton. 500 megs. And of course we used AT style power supplies, which were far more dangerous to work with. Ask me how I know. And that was all being phased out when I started professionally. So I think a couple like came in for repair that had the drives. If I'm remembering, he says 1984. So in 1984, I was using an Atari 400 or maybe a TRS-80 Model 1. I had the Model 1 first, then I went to the Atari 400. And a lot of friends had Commodores and Apples. I was the only guy I knew that had the Atari, and I thought my Atari was far superior. These guys didn't know. Yeah. I'll tell you what, you turn one of them drives on, those old RLL MFM drives, you know they're on. They spin up, they sound like a jet engine firing up. And then you had to park them before you shut them off. You had to park the heads back in the day. Or it would shut off with the head being over the platter somewhere instead of returning back to its little garage, which is what drives do automatically. But back then, you had to set the park command and then shut it off, or you were risking damaging the drive if you didn't. Phil Stodd said he loved that sound, like the sound of a modem, right? That whistle and staticky noise that it makes. Okay, so we're just finishing up the Windows 11 install to 24H2 on our Minisforum. There's been no prep. I haven't done this on this computer before. I have no idea if it's going to work. I just know from experience, our success rate is probably over 90%. I'm willing to take that risk on a live video. That's how confident I am that 24H2 is fine. And that's assuming you're a regular user and you haven't modified your registry or done tweaks to Windows that aren't recommended because you think it made it better, then you might have a problem. Or you might have some unsupported software, which is highly unlikely, but possible. Mike Johnson wants to know if the Acronis discount is still going on. Yes, always please check our video notes below the video, and you're going to find links to Acronis, RoboForm, and VIP CDK deals for you guys. They're for our viewers. You understand? They're not just average discounts you can find anywhere. This is for you guys for being our viewers. You get 30% off. And honestly, the regular MSRP, the manufacturer's suggested retail price, if you went to Acronis, if you went to VIP CDK deals, or you went to RoboForm and you paid full price, I still think it's a great deal. But when you take another 30% off of that, it's almost like you're stealing it. And I feel bad for people that aren't taking advantage of it. But if you've already got a backup solution you're using, keep using it. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. But if you need a backup solution, try Acronis. There's a 15-day free trial. It costs you nothing. You don't have to give up any credit card information. RoboForm, free trial. And with Windows and Office, those install and they work. Windows will work indefinitely without activation. Microsoft Office will let you start it like, I don't know, a few times. And after that, it says you got to pay for it. So it has a little free trial mode, little tiny free trial mode in Microsoft Office as well. So everybody I work with is legitimate and I support them 100% and I support you guys. And if you ever have any problems, you let their customer service know and they'll fix it. And if they don't, you tell me and I guarantee you I will fix it. Find me another YouTube content creator that stands behind their sponsors like I do. If I won't stand behind them, I won't recommend you buy it. Just like a customer, I have to support what I sell. Okay, so Windows 11, just finishing up here. We're running a little late today, but I think this is important. So we'll just let this finish up. And I want you to see, as we're live, unrehearsed, how safe Windows 24 H2 is to install for the average computer. If it doesn't work for you, you can always roll it back, and you should always have a backup anyway. We've already discussed this. I want to get back to that whole WordPad thing real quick. I want to do a Google search on that. There's a couple videos on YouTube showing you how to get it back, WordPad. PCWorld.com says WordPad is now gone. Here's how to bring it back. So there are some links here. This was posted October 3rd. Let's do this. We know what this is doing, so let's just go to our, okay, it's done. Okay, let's cover the Windows 11 thing I wanted to show you, and then let's do, hold on one second. Okay, so let me go to full screen over here. I just thought this was cool. So if you look down in the bottom right corner here, where we see our internet connection is a little monitor, right? And I unplug the internet cable, the Ethernet cable, and then that becomes a globe. But now when I plug it back in and it starts negotiating, instead of turning from a globe to a screen, what we're gonna get is a little cable that blinks off and on that tells you it's negotiating. That little tiny detail, I love that. I also love when I right-click on something, if I go to my C drive or whatever, and I want to copy something, when I right-click, and I want to, well, where is it? I guess I have to pick a file. Let's right-click and choose. You see here it says cut, copy, rename, share. I love that all of the icons have names under them. Instead of just being an icon and you're supposed to know what the picture means, they explain what it means right here, which is just such a relief for me. I'm like, okay, was this one copy or was this one paste? Now it tells you. These little tiny details are what I like. Now with regards to getting WordPad back, let's talk about that for a second. You can get it back, and I'm going to share the screen with you here to this article, and we'll do it live right now, just because you asked. WordPad is now gone from Windows 11. Here's how to get it back. With the arrival of Windows 11 24H2, WordPad's officially gone. Do you want to keep using it? Again, I don't advise that you do this, but if you want to do it, we'll scroll down. The folder for WordPad should still be present, but without the executable file. Oh, that's interesting. It would be under C:\program files, Windows NT \accessories. So if you copy this file from a computer without 24H2 on it, I guess that's what that's what they're saying is go to a computer that doesn't have 24H2, go into this directory and copy WordPad exe off of it. It says you'll see three things: WordPad filter.dll, WordPad exe, and localization folder. Copy all three to USB stick, take it to the computer that no longer has WordPad, and paste everything into any folder. What do you mean any folder? It doesn't matter where, but we recommend choosing a permanent location and creating a new folder called WordPad. So apparently WordPad is, there's a localization folder. Interesting. Let me take a look here on the streamer. No, the streamer's already 24H2. So apparently you need, before you upgrade to 24H2, and you want WordPad back, you got to copy these files. If you don't already have them, let's see what it says. After everything's pasted, right-click on WordPad, select Show More Options, and then create a desktop shortcut. That's pretty standard. Next, open the Start menu, click All Apps, find WordPad. Now you can pin it in the Start menu. Should also specify the app in settings that WordPad can be used to open documents. Go to Settings, Apps, Default Apps. If you want that to be your default to open when you click on Documents. Installing WordPad in Windows 11 is safe because you're using official Microsoft files. However, you should be aware that WordPad won't receive any future or security updates going forward. That's the problem. It's not today that I'm worried about. It's a few months from now. So if the app becomes buggy or incompatible with other elements over time, you have no choice but to give up WordPad in time. It's also possible that documents from Microsoft Office versions will no longer be able to open with WordPad at some point in the future. Until then, however, you can at least keep using and making the use of this free text editor using this method. So we'll include this link up here in the video notes below the video. All right, so you guys that are interested in doing that, I don't recommend it, but there you go. And I think that's it for today. Let me go back to camera 1 and we'll turn off, let's go full screen on camera 1 and back over to the chat room. Ron Barnish joining us, says hello. Patrick uses Macrium Reflect free for years, then paid for it. Then I bought a Cronus recently and upgraded to the newest Macrium. Too much money. Oh, as upgrade. Macrium is expensive, and personally, I don't like it. I asked Doug Betts, who loves Macrium, to demonstrate to me why he likes it. And we did it live, and it didn't work. It was not good for Doug. But Doug likes it. And you know, look, I don't care what you're using to back up your computer. Use something. If your data is important to you, you're the only person that cares. When hackers steal your data, it's not your data they want. It's they know you want it. It's not worth anything to the hackers. It has no value except to you, and they want you to pay to get it back. No one else is going to pay to get your data back. Your data has no value to anybody but you. I want you to understand that. The hackers don't care what the data is. The hackers only care that you care about it and you want it back and you're willing to pay for it. Nobody else but you would be willing to pay for it. It has value only to you, and the hackers know that. They don't care what it is. It doesn't matter if it's documents or figures. They don't care. They're not targeting you specifically. They're targeting anybody with data under the assumption that if we encrypt that data, you will pay to get it back, right? If they exposed it to the world, who cares? No one knows who you are. It's just obscurity. But it has value to you, and the hackers know that. That's why it's so important you back up your data if your data matters to you. Because I promise you, it doesn't matter to anybody else. Certainly not to that level anyway. So if you can't be bothered, if it's too much trouble or it's never going to happen, you made that bed. It has nothing to do with any of us. Just want you to know, data recovery is a very expensive form of backup that takes a long time and is very unpredictable with regards to what they can get back. So you can spend what is it, 35 bucks for a Cronus for a year, or you can spend $400 to send your drive to the data recovery center. That's a cheap one. That's $300 data recovery. Most data recovery places are over $1,200, and they take about 3 weeks, and they can't guarantee they can get anything back. If they can, if you're lucky, they get everything back, which is effectively a backup. It's just a really expensive one that you're paying somebody else to do. It's like trying to buy insurance after a crash. Anyway, I can't emphasize enough. If you care about your data, it's up to you to protect it. Nobody else is going to protect it. And since the bad guys know it matters to you, but you didn't protect it, they're going to steal it from you if they can. And keeping an old application like WordPad on there, after a certain amount of time, may be opening an exploit into that. Just saying. You want to always use supported software and supported hardware, or you're taking a risk. And if you are taking the risk, make sure you have an updated backup. If I said that enough times, are you going to do it? I don't care. It's your stuff. It has no impact on me or anybody else. I want to emphasize, this is on you. So if you want to protect yourself, it's very easy to do that with a Cronus. And we have videos that walk you right through the entire process if you're intimidated by it. It's very simple. But like anything else, the more familiar you get with it, the more it makes sense and it's comfortable and you can automate it. And now you've got a peace of mind and a weight off your shoulders that if anything happens, you've got that backup. You don't have to pay the ransom. You don't have to worry about how to remove a virus. You just restore it back and you're good to go. You don't have to watch any how-to videos how to fix something. You just put it all back with your restore. It's that easy. Trevor Dunn said he just did that WordPad installation from PC World Magazine. He followed the article while we were live, and he said it worked just fine. He just did it now. Thank you, Trevor. I'm sure PC World is a reputable source of information. I doubt that. You always have to consider when you're doing a Google search, who's the source? Is it somebody you know and trust, or is it some random person online? Then determine the value of that information, considering its source. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of false information out there. So PC World is a good, safe source, and that's why that was the link of all the links I searched. That's the one I clicked on, and that's why. I don't just click on the first thing that shows up. Trevor, again, thank you for that update. Luke Renia says, my systems get 3 programs right away. As soon as he installs Windows, he puts Acronis, RoboForm, and VLC on it. Beautiful. Ron Barnish said he spent Wednesday in the hospital. He had a heart procedure. Oh my goodness, that's scary. Good to know, Ron. I'm glad to hear you're back and healing. That's wonderful. Versus not having the procedure and suffering the consequences. Phil wants to know if we have a dedicated firewall between your router and network. Well, we don't expose anything that could get us hacked, right? Because a public figure, people have nothing else better to do, and they want to, play games and nonsense, try and get my attention. I guess getting my attention is really, I mean, they could come into the chat room and be nice. They'd get my attention just fine. But just know that a router is a firewall. So if you want to put a second firewall in, you can. You can use managed switches, and you can use dedicated firewalls like Watchdog and stuff like that, which mostly are done with businesses taking credit cards and such to meet compliance regulations. We have purchased a smart switch that's a 10 gig smart switch because Mara's experiences is in enterprise networking, and she's kind of bored with consumer stuff. It doesn't give her enough control. She wants detailed control, VLAN configuration options. These regular switches, she's not a fan of because you just plug them in and they work. Right? I'm a fan of that. I like that. She's the opposite. She wants to log into the switch and manage the switch and control all kinds of stuff within the switch, which is then between the router and us. The kind of switches that she would work on, we can't afford to buy. So we went on AliExpress and we bought a 10 gig switch since we're going to 10 gig in the office. And we thought, it's like $350 for a 5-port 10 gig across, Ethernet, no SFP plus. And she's been toying with it, experimenting. And hopefully when she's comfortable enough, we can have her explain, why would you want this? And where does it fall short, in your opinion, as she's used to working on, Cisco and Juniper and all these big, major thousands of dollar switches and big corporations. This is something in between. It's kind of a clone of Cisco in a way. That's what she's told me. But if you have a router, that is a firewall. It does network address translation, or NAT, and that's what's keeping you safe from being directly exposed. And of course, depending on your router, there could be parental controls and other settings if you prefer to tighten that down a little bit more. Essential Working Towards says, thanks for another great show, Carey and Mara. Martin Hogg says, good night from the UK, where it's 11:30 at night. Phil Stodd said, remember, if Mara's not happy, nobody's happy. Mara says, you can't take the network engineer out of the girl. Troll McTrollington says, I used to make Cisco boxes for the hardware. before they ship most of her work to China. Oh. Amara says what we got off of AliExpress is like a stripped down version of Cisco or Arista iOS. Mark Thomas said Notepad++ is for programming. Programming what? Anything? C++? Python? What? Old Man 55, Mara, you really get into her work. Yeah, that's for sure. Johnny says, another great show once again, Carey. Right on. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you to Minisforum. I don't know if we bought this. I think we bought this. But Minisforum is great. They're supposed to be sending us something new that I can't wait to show you. I guess I can get rid of my utilities drive here. I cannot emphasize how quiet this is. And I also can't emphasize, for $320, you're getting an entire computer, the case, the power supply, the motherboard, the SSD, the RAM, the operating system. It's already done for $319. And this is not a budget level computer. This is not an N100. I strongly recommend stay away from the N100s. They'll be good for a year or two, then you're going to want to replace it. Spend a little bit more, get something more in the mid-range, and this will last you, as far as being useful, I'd say a good 5-6 years, maybe a little bit longer if you take care of it. Now, if you're the kind of person that's going to open it up and tinker with it all the time, that's on you. But if you buy it the way it was engineered and tested and tuned and leave it alone, you can go into the BIOS and you can change some things. All right, I wanted to show this and I forgot. Let me go back over to camera 2 for a second and then we'll wrap up today's video. But I want to show you the BIOS in this. And I want to strongly recommend you use caution if you get in here and start toying with stuff. It's already tuned from the factory. If you think you can tune it better, let me show you. Let's go back to camera 2 for a second. And we'll go full screen over here. And we're going to do a shutdown. There's a couple ways you can get into a BIOS. Everybody knows you hit the delete key, and sometimes people have Bluetooth keyboards that aren't configured until Windows loads, and they can't get into their BIOS. So we can always go to Settings. This is just another way to do it. Windows Update. We go to, did they move it? Advanced Options, Recovery. It's a lot of steps. Advanced Startup. That's what we want right there. I know it took us quite a while to get there. There's probably a shortcut you can type in the search bar. But anyway, just as an average user that's not going to do this all the time, and you're not sure about what key to press or when, you can go through this process, let it restart, and when it restarts, it's going to give us a different menu than we normally get before the desktop. You're going to see a special advanced startup mode. So our boot up is going to be just a little different than normal. So this comes up and it loads our advanced startup options. And we can continue on to Windows because we did this by mistake. Or we can click Troubleshoot, or we can turn the computer off, which is a long way to go to turn the computer off. So we want Troubleshoot. We can reset the computer, which we don't want to do. But if you were going to sell it to somebody, maybe you want to reset it. Here under Advanced Options, you'll see a bunch of things here. Startup repair, uninstall some updates, maybe some updates causing a blue screen. This is how you uninstall that update. It's no big deal. Here it says UEFI firmware settings. And of course, System Restore, the DOS prompt, the command prompt, and then changing your startup behavior. We want to go into the BIOS, the UEFI CMOS BIOS, any of those words. Click on that and click Restart. And now without pressing any keys, when it restarts, it's going to take us into the BIOS. This works on all Windows 10 and 11, I think even Windows 7. But anyway, here's what the BIOS looks like. It's kind of a GUI type interface here. And so you can see we've got a BIOS version, manufacturer, right? Memory frequency, total memory, all this. Go to Advanced. So Trusted Computing is your TPM, CPU configuration, onboard devices, NVMe RAID mode. Oh, does this have 2 NVMe slots in it? I think it's got 2 and you can RAID it. Ooh, that might be a great video to make. Put 2 NVMe drives in this that are the same. You know, we could take two 2 terabyte drives or two 4 terabyte drives, turn it into a RAID 0 and have one drive that Windows sees. That's double, right? So if it's two 2 terabyte drives, it'll give us a 1 C drive of 4 terabytes. And we combine the speeds together. So if we were getting about 4,500 on this, so if we double that, we get 9,000 on our reads and writes. But if one drive fails, we lose everything. But if we back up, we lose nothing. Basic hardware monitor, common CPU options, core boost, auto, C states, yep. PBS, nope, it's in here somewhere. Was it under main? No, it's not under main. It's got to be here under advanced somewhere. ACPI settings. Let's go back. You're already in there. CPU, I thought it was under CPU. I thought there is a place in here to adjust putting more power to it, which of course can make it run hotter, make the fan go faster, and get a little bit more performance. I don't know where it is. Thought I was right in here. You got boot options in here. Of course, save and exit is here. You can load optimize defaults if you want to, if you screwed it up and you want to put it back. This is how you put it back to factory. I'd swear there was something in here. I don't want to do that. Where am I missing it? It's not either of these. It's not that. Anyway, this is what the BIOS looks like. We got CPU temperature here, fan speeds, all that's reported in here. Your network stack, obviously we're not interested in that. Yeah, that's the hardware monitor. I'm not sure what this stuff is. If you want to play with it, there's probably some videos that go through this a little bit more detail to explain it. But I would leave it alone. I wouldn't try and add more power to it. But you can if you want to. Anyway, that's what the BIOS looks like. We'll save and exit. Let's just load the optimized defaults because we can. Didn't exit? What are we doing? Save changes and exit? Okay. So load optimized defaults I thought would automatically restart, but it doesn't. It just loads the defaults, and then we still have to tell it to restart, which is probably not making any change at all, right? Because I didn't change it to begin with, and it should have been shipped with optimized defaults. Anytime you update a BIOS, though, you probably want to load the optimized defaults. Your other settings from your previous BIOS may not carry over. These little machines, tablets and things like this, they typically don't get BIOS or firmware updates. It's uncommon. That's mostly with systems that you build yourself. So if you're expecting that, you'll be disappointed that you're not seeing regular BIOS updates for these because they're not customizable in a way that a home-built computer would be. Okay, I think that squares us up here. I think we're good to go. My Chrome has crashed 3 times during this stream. Not us. Mara's crashed too. That's crashed 3 times for me. In the future, can explain Unraid seems to be popular. We're not going to do Unraid. We're not going to do any open source RAID software. We're not doing it. That is all enthusiast home lab. Again, if I can't make money in my business selling it and I don't want to support it, we're not using a piece of freeware to run a business and depend on it. There's a lot of free RAID software. Unraid is one of them. Gosh, right off the top of my head, I can't think of what they're called. They're very common. There are already home lab YouTube dedicated videos that cover that subject matter. We will not cover that here. If we cover RAID, it's because the manufacturer offers it. We're not downloading or installing or configuring anything like pfSense or Proxmox or Unraid. That's all home lab stuff. There are channels dedicated to that. We are not one of them. If you're looking for that kind of content here, we don't sell that to customers. We don't support that to our customers, right? If we're going to do a RAID configuration, we're going to do a hardware RAID. We're going to do Synology QNAP. We're going to do it out of the box, ready to go, small footprint, low power. Because what the customer saves by reusing an old computer, they're going to pay triple in labor for me to configure it, and I don't want to support it. You know, you need a keyboard, a mouse, a monitor to get this whole thing set up, and you think you're saving money when really it's costing you more in electricity than it would have, Synology or QNAP would have paid for itself. But you want to keep old hardware alive, which is power inefficient, thinking you're saving the planet when you're doing the exact opposite. But if you're just a tinkerer and you just want to use it for fun, there's plenty of channels that already cover that. I wish I could think of some of the other popular ones. My brain's not working today. Free RAID software. People talking about ZFS. That's not the software itself. Let's do a different search. Let's type Unraid alternative. 12 great Unraid alternatives. So these are all options you could use as a home lab, tinkerer. You can play with these. There's a lot. There's TrueNAS, Proxmox, virtual environment, Active Directory, SSPR2. No, that's an ad, I think. Come on. Sigma NAS. Gosh, there's one right off the top of my head. It's really bothering me. I can't think of what it's called. I'm not finding the answers I'm looking for, and of course we're live. A lot of people recommending Open Media Vault, which I don't know anything about. Anyway, there's a lot of free alternatives, and you're going to find these on home lab channels here on YouTube, and they do a great job. Most of them go through all the details and all that stuff, but I can't sell that to a customer, and I don't want to support it. We just buy, the proper equipment to get the job done in order to make sure that the business can operate daily and help their customers and keep their employees productive. So we use stuff that's supported. If I have a problem, I can call somebody. It's got a warranty. Again, we don't have ongoing expenses. It's a small footprint. It's power efficient. It doesn't cost a lot of money to run. We're not reusing old hardware. We're putting new drives in. We replace the drives, if they're mechanical, every 5 years, whether or not they're good, or it doesn't matter. The mechanical drives, just like an oil change, we replace those mechanical drives every 5 years. If we're using NVMe drives, it's too early to tell. As far as I know, we just run them indefinitely. I don't have a set replacement time. If a customer gets a QNAP or an ASUS store or TerraMaster that's an all NVMe NAS, I don't have any schedule for replacement on NVMe. It just lasts forever until it's no longer compatible, like may require SMB's authenticity or something like that. In the future, something like that becomes invented and required in the future that this older NAS now won't support. And then we need updates constantly to protect the customer's data from hackers using exploits. A lot of people with QNAPs back in the day got hit with a virus that essentially was just scouring the internet looking for unupdated QNAPs. A lot of people were affected by it. It was called It was really popular. QNAP. So back then, QNAP wasn't doing any auto updates. You, as the user, had to maintain it and update it. Since then, because people plug them in and they don't update them. So now QNAP does auto updates automatically. QNAP virus, what was it called? Something locker. It basically encrypted everything on a QNAP. People would go wake up one day and go to access their data, and it was all encrypted, and there was a message, you need to pay this money or you're not going to get your data back. And anybody that has kept their QNAP updated wasn't affected by this. There were a lot of people affected by it. I'm trying to remember what it was called. QLocker, I think is what it was called. And you'd be surprised how many QNAP devices were not kept updated, and this QLocker just automatically infected them just because they were turned on and connected to the internet. Nobody had to click on anything. It was built into the operating system. It was exploited, and if you didn't patch that exploit, you'd find out all your data was encrypted. I hope you had a backup. Okay. Mark Gaines says YouTube won't allow me to send a super chat on any browsers. What's it doing? You should have that little $ icon down there by where you type your message. What happens? Do you have an ad blocker put on? Troll McChallenging said, you should have seen when I put 2 computers in one case. That's the computer that Doug Betts owns. We did the Big Beast build a couple of years ago. It's 2022. And we built 2 computers in one case on the Big Beast build. It's a 10-part series. And of course, our friend Mitch Morrison helped us out with that. And then when we built it, it's like, oh, what do we do with it now? It was a lot of money to build it. And I thought, I'd make the money back in video revenue, and it didn't earn back 20% of what it cost to build. So I won't do that again. And so I kind of lost my shirt on that investment. And then Doug Betts came along and said, I'd like to buy that. I said, I can't ship it. It's too fragile. It's too heavy. He says, I'll come out from California and I'll pick it up. We'll visit. And then there's a video with Doug Betts on camera as a guest with Mitch and myself. And we had a lot of fun, hung out. And if you watch live Windows training with Doug Betts, behind him you'll see the Big Beast build. And inside of that is another computer. We call it Baby Beast. It's all in the one case. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I have no idea why Doug wanted to buy that, but I wasn't going to say no. Mark Gaines says when he tries to give a super chat, it's unresponsive, no ad blockers. Have you tried restarting the computer? TWC Codster says, I'm trying to manually update to 24H2, but the update assistant says my PC has a driver or a service that isn't ready for this version of Windows. Any thoughts? Yes. You should wait until Windows 24H2 is offered to you, because they're not telling you which driver or service it is. I don't know if it's something you need or something that's left over. I have no idea. But Microsoft will not offer you automatically 24H2, as they're offering it to people right now. People that have that particular issue, Microsoft is aware of it and they're working on it. And when they get it fixed, then they'll offer it to you. So if I were you, you have 2 choices. 1, you wait until it's offered to you, which could be 2 or 3 months from now. 2, you would try to address which service you have. You can do a Google search on that particular error message to find out the common services, right? You might not have one that's common, but more than likely, it's something a lot of people have with regards to this error, why this error occurs. Not people in general, just people who get this error. A percentage of them probably have the same thing you have, which is, let me do a quick Google search on this for you. 24H2 will not, I'm just going to type it in Google, will not install because of service error. That should be close enough. Microsoft has placed a compatibility hold on certain devices to protect the update experience. To resolve this, you can try installing the latest firmware. You can also try making sure your drive has your storage has enough storage space available to install Windows Update. You're going to have about 10 gigs free. Make sure you run Windows Update multiple times and you have all the latest updates from Microsoft before you install 24H2. Make sure you have the latest BIOS on your computer. Unplug any extra hardware. So if you have external drives installed, printers, unplug all that stuff. Check your device manager if you have any errors in it. Remove any third-party security software. That'll often cause problems. Things like AVG, things like Norton, McAfee. The Windows Defender is really all you should be using. It's all you need. Other than that, you could do a clean install of 24H2, and that'll probably work. But if you have a piece of hardware that has an incompatible driver, after you install 24H2, that piece of hardware won't work anymore. So we just don't know. We don't know you, so we don't know if you have some piece of hardware that requires a driver that's not 24H2 compatible. But those are your basic steps. Now, Windows 11 24H2, it's being rolled out gradually, automatically, and the upgrade will be offered to you when it's your device's turn. But if you want to force it, this is part of the reason why you haven't been offered it until that gets addressed. And whether or not you want to address it yourself is up to you. And if you do, I'd love to know how you fixed it. It's still too early for me to have the answers yet. The installs data that I have is very minimal. But as more and more people get it and we hear more and more stories, we hear about problems and solutions, there's going to be some that are very common. And as we learn of those, we'll share them with you. And if you share your experience with us, we appreciate that very much, good or bad. It helps collect the data. And if you figure it out, we'd like to know how, so if somebody else has the same problem, we can share that with them. All right. Awesome community we've got here. As for not being able to contribute, Mark Gaines says he's not able to use Super Chat. He goes, I restarted twice. I can put in the amount, but the send is not responding and there's no error messages. Maybe it's just YouTube today. You'll have to let me know, Mark, if this happens again during the next live video, and then that's something we can look into. But it may be just YouTube's acted a little wonky today. So I just don't know. I don't think it's on your side, and I don't think it's on our side. It's the guy in the middle, YouTube, that's controlling that. You might also check to make sure that whatever you're using for form of payment is still active, that it hasn't been disabled or changed without your knowledge, or that it's not empty and doesn't have any money left in it. Something like that can cause that as well. So check your payment settings and make sure they haven't changed, whatever you're using to pay. Now, with regards to the UM760 Slim, I love this little guy. I don't think you can get a better computer for $319. If you think you can get something better than this today, in October 2024, even in November, throughout the rest of the year, if you find a better deal than this, please let me know in the comments below. Again, it may not be the best computer money can buy, but I do believe it's the best computer you can buy for the money. Quality, name brand stuff. I'm not getting paid to make this. This is something I would recommend to a customer. I would support this. It's a great value. Don't expect too much from it. You're going to have to spend more, okay? But it's also so much better than this typical like N100 budget computer. It's way, way more powerful than that. So our thanks to Minisforum, and we have lots more coming from Minisforum. I hope some different stuff. Not a mini PC, but maybe a small motherboard. And anyway, I don't want to spoil it. It should be a fun build. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you, of course, for joining me, hanging out, and interacting. Thank you, of course, to Mara for all the work she does in the background. Our friends at Acronis, RoboForm, and VIP CDK deals, without whom you guys would not get that 30% discount on that stuff. That is, again, stuff I run in my business that I support. to keep saying that. If you're looking for content like mine, check out Mike's unboxing reviews and how-to. He does videos very similar. If you like to see computer builds, check out Roby Tech. If you're looking for like computer repair and interactive, check out Live Windows Training with Doug Betts. If you want to see what it's like to run a real computer repair shop for real, and it's humorous, it's well edited, Salem Techsperts. Fantastic. It is very much exactly like, if anything, he's more of a repair shop than I am now. But I'm so relating to all of his issues and customers and lack of, difficulty earning a living in this field. Love that channel. So while we're between shows, definitely check those channels out. Planet Cryos is a viewer here. He's got a YouTube channel as well. A lot of how-to stuff, building and gadget testing. Some great channels out there. Highly recommend it. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Thank you for all your super chats. Thank you again. Our friend Buster said a very generous contribution. Thank you to, of course, our super members, including Buster. There's Oystein, Frankie B, and Paul Gray. What's interesting to me is they're all in different countries. Paul is in Australia, Buster's in Scotland, Frankie's in New York, and Oystein is in Norway. That is so cool. And for all of your super chats and all of the members, we can't thank you enough. We'll see you all again very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.